Okay, Chair?
Okay. Yep, excellent. Thank you very much, Amy. Right. So, welcome everybody. Do we have any apologies for absence, please?
Yes, we do, Chair. Would you mind turning your camera back on? We seem to have lost your camera. So your apologies
Right, can you see me now?
No, Chair, I'm afraid.
No,
Would you
Chair,
be able to...
unfortunately, we cannot see you.
Yeah, if you come off screen,
Right,
Chair,
I don't
and come
understand
back on.
why. Sorry, say that again.
If you could come back off screen for me and then rejoin. Just come off screen, off your activation button, and then reactivate your button for me.
Yes, no?
Just bear with me 1 second. Oh, there you go. You've come off screen now. If you come back on for me, there you are. That's lovely. We've got you back.
That's
Okay.
really weird. Right, okay, thank you very much.
Apologies. Yes.
So you've had apologies, please.
Yes. So you've had apologies from Councillor Gilligan and Councillor Perks from the Vale of Glamorgan elected members. You've also had apologies from Councillor Cuddy for Penarth Town Council, but the Town Council is represented this evening by Councillor Cox. Also apologies from Councillor Hatton from Dinas Powys Community Council, but the Community Council is represented by Councillor Phillips this evening. Apologies also received from Councillor Parry from St Bride's Community Council, but the council is represented by Heidi Rosenberg this evening. And apologies received from Councillor Bosworth for Welsh St Donat's Community Council. Thank you, Chair. That's all the apologies to myself.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, let's have a look. So can we look at the minutes for the 18th of April, please, and the 21st of May? I'm happy to move those as a true record, unless there are any questions, please. Do I have a seconder, please, for the 18th of April?
I'm happy to second.
Thank you. And for the 21st of May? Christine, do you wish to second or do you want to ask a question?
I want to ask a question, Chair, if I may. It's in relation to the meeting in May, which was a special meeting. Now, during that meeting, I actually tried 3 different ways to come onto the meeting. I tried with 2 different laptops, the council laptop, my own laptop, then my own telephone, and then the council telephone. All of those methods failed. I don't know whether Amy will recall, but she could see me on the meeting, but I couldn't hear the meeting and I couldn't speak at the meeting. So I do wonder, now that we're having a lot of meetings in this hybrid way, whether there should be something on the agenda minutes that give an indication that I was only absent from the meeting because of the failure of the technology to allow me to come onto the meeting, and not because I wasn't able to attend. In actual fact, I made great effort to attend. I know there's been previous meetings where when, planning, for example, when members haven't been on the meeting, and Councillor Wilson will verify this for me, we've actually abandoned a meeting so that people could come back at a later stage. Obviously, I know there were some people that were absent that couldn't get on. I was one of them. I don't know how many there were. I do think it should be recorded somewhere in the agenda going forward because of our hybrid meetings.
Okay, thank you, Amy.
If I may, Chair, just to respond, obviously I can take that suggestion forward. It's not something within my power to agree to, because that obviously would be a corporate-wide approach. So with Councillor Kaye's permission, I'll take that suggestion forward. And considering that Councillor Cave is not suggesting any amendments to the meeting, the minutes as presented, and they have been seconded by Councillor Wilson, you're able to take those to a vote.
Right, thank you very much. Christine, would you be happy with that?
I'd certainly be happy, Chair, for it to be taken forward by Democratic Services and considered. And if it is then considered that that is a valid point and that's what should happen going forward, that these meetings have some sort of note on that I made 4 attempts to get onto the meeting but was unable to do so.
No, I'm happy
Chair.
to support you in that. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Wilson, then Councillor Payne, please.
Yeah, thank you. I don't think there's any provision in the Constitution at the moment for that kind of attendance mark, as it were. But certainly that's something that could go forward, as Amy rightly said.
Right, thank you. Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just say my apologies aren't recorded on the minutes for the 2 meetings. So can they be added, please? Because they were given.
Yes,
Right.
Councillor Payne, we will do so.
Thank you.
Lovely. Okay, thank you very much. If we could look at agenda item 3, please, which is declarations of interest. Do we have any of those? If you have a declaration, you will need to state the nature of such an interest, please. Anyone? No, thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to hand over to South Wales Police Service for a verbal update. I'm not sure who we've got with us today. No, we've got Gareth Charles again. Hello, thank you very much.
Evening.
I'll let you fire away.
Thank you. Am I coming through correctly?
Absolutely.
Yes, you
no,
are.
you're right in here.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. Right. Noswaith Arbawr. Just to give you a bit of an update, I last appeared before you, I believe it was in April, so some time ago. What I'm going to do is I'll speak about just a broad brush about some of the activities that are taking place over the summer. And some of the events we've held with South Wales Police and our partners, and some of the good work that's taken place in the Vale as a whole. Operation Elstree, it's an operation which we run every summer, and it's a partnership operation where we work in partnership with our other emergency service colleagues, and together with the Vale of Glamorgan Council as well. I'm happy to say throughout the summer, it's been a huge success. It's been an indifferent summer in terms of weather and attracting people to the coastline of the Vale. But a number of events have taken place there, which have been incident-free. The triathlon and Barry, food festivals throughout the Vale in Cowbridge, in Llantwit, and also in Wick as well. And there's also been other events such as Barry Glastonbury as well, which attracted around about 7,000 people every night, run over 3 days. And that was incident-free, very well policed and very well organised. So I'm pleased to say over the summer, the coastline is very much family orientated, where we've managed to support and run a number of events there, which have all gone incident-free. So good news on that front. So the coastline is thriving, and people are coming to the coastline. It's very much a family-orientated atmosphere there. We've had no major disorder, no public order incidents, and as I say, it's been policed, but visible, but we haven't really had to get involved in very much there. There's been 1 or 2 incidents in terms of car parks and vehicles turning up throughout the Vale coastline, but those are sort of minor incidents that we'll look at next year. So that's taken place with the coastline. As I say, it's been a success. I'm going to speak about some of the crime patterns, just to make you aware that I've taken ownership now for the whole of the Vale, and I have ownership now from Penarth right over west end to Wagmore by Sea. So it's a huge area to cover. Very much, I would say, very much invested in the area. And some of the main crime patterns we're looking at the moment that are affecting, particularly, they're not major sort of crime sprees at all, but they are patterns that are affecting various sectors of the coastline. We've got shoplifting in the Penarth Town Centre, which we're looking at present. We've done a number of initiatives there with some crime prevention, and we've been out to visit the stores and given that crime prevention advice and putting a lot of preventative measures in place. And this is an area which we're looking at. We're trying to identify who the regular offenders are. We've identified some of them, and we'll be looking to ways and means of bringing them into custody in the course of the next couple of weeks. I'm trying to move the figures there in terms of, as we're coming up to the Christmas period, trying to get on top of that crime which is taking place in Penarth Town Centre, and trying to bring those numbers down. They're not huge numbers, but they do have an effect upon the Penarth community, and I'm very conscious of that, and something I want to bring down as well. Other incidents that have locally in the Vale that have raised attention, you may or may not be aware of. Some farmers have had some difficulties recently with persons trespassing on their land late at night. It is a common crime that tends to happen this time of the year, where the crops are harvested at the end of the summer period, and then we have incidents where people are trespassing. It can be a crime associated to the travelling community, and they are trespassing on the land and using dogs, etc., and get involved in crimes which are commonly known as lamping. There have been a number of incidents reported to us, and we have taken some positive action in relation to it. Patrols have increased, and we have made some disruption concerning those crimes that have been reported to us. Recently, a vehicle was seized, which we were able to identify was involved in some of the crime in the rural Vale community, just outside St Hilary's. That vehicle was seized. There's no one with the vehicle at the time, but we're able to identify that it was involved in some of the lamping there. And that's been seized and taken into a police compound. We've also done taken a number of investigative opportunities with CCTV in the area and identified some registrations of vehicles, again, which have been involved. Believe they're out using dogs and lamping and chasing hares. And it's a sort of a crime that does happen this time of year, in between the period now leading up to January. So we've identified who the owners of those vehicles are, and we've been out to visit those persons. Can't actually identify that they've been involved in crime, but their vehicles have been cited in suspicious circumstances. So we've been out to see those persons, two of which are from the Llanrumney area of Cardiff, and we've given the relevant sort of warnings to them, and they've assured us they will not be back to the Vale area. So it's operation we're going to run. Some of my officers, Stuart Elson and Jamie Williamson, who've worked in the Vale community for a number of years, they're going to be heading up an operation which is going to look at increasing the patrols and trying to support the farming community in the Vale going forward. Other priorities that we have: drug dealing. Again, our priorities are drug dealing, domestic violence, and knife culture. I'm pleased to say, certainly for yourselves, they're not really, doesn't feature that much in the Vale communities. It's more, we have more sort of problems in the Barry areas, and they are sort of areas that we look at in those communities. But in terms of the Vale crime rate, it remains low, and good crime statistics for yourselves. Some of the intervention work which we're going to be doing, which I'm quite excited about. There's a local boxing personality who's known internationally, Lee Selby. We've had some meetings with him and his team that manage him. He's retired from boxing now, around about 3 years ago. But he's set up a number of projects in the Bristol area which have been successful, really aimed at intervention work with young persons who are on the wrong sort of path and potentially going into life of criminality. And he's done work with them in the Bristol area, and we're trying to replicate that in the Vale. It'll be situated in Barry, and we're trying to find some premises, but we'll be able to make referrals from schools throughout the Vale, and make referrals into Lee and his team. And it's something we're going to be working with him to set this initiative up, and present us with preventative measures with Lee to stop persons and support young persons in the Vale, throughout the Vale. So that's it from myself. In terms of, it's been a successful summer. There's been no sort of real incidents to bring to your attention that cause major issues. I'm willing to take any questions from the panel.
Thank you. That was very interesting. Yeah, particularly the point of view of shoplifting in town centre of Penarth, because obviously I'm from Penarth, and it was a real difficulty last year. Right, thank you very much. So let's start with Councillor Asbury, then Councillor Toker, and then I'll come back to the list. Councillor Asbury, please.
Hi. I think I've spoken to you once or twice before, and I'm just wondering, what are the plans, please, for PCSOs in Dinas Powys?
Yeah, we have PCSOs. I have sent correspondence to the Dinas Powys Committee. Luke Shaw and Dawn Andrews are the PCSOs there at present. I've also increased what we're doing now. We've got a team, and we cover the whole of the Vale. We have 3 teams altogether, 2 of which are based in Barry. and then we have another team which covers the whole of the Vale, from Ogmore by Sea to over to Penarth as well. We do have PCSOs who work specifically out of Penarth Town Centre, or Penarth Station, I should say. They are Luke Short and Dawn Andrews. And they've also recently increased the capacity there, where Deborah Ashman has gone over, and together with Brandon Dodds as well. So we have a capacity of 4 PCSOs there, but with the shifts, they're also supported by another 8 PCSOs who work out of Lambwood Major, and they come over depending on what we've got on. They will come over and assist as well in the Vale community. So dedicated to your ward, you have Luke and Dawn, but also dedicated to the ward as well as backups as well. It will be Deborah Ashman and Brandon Dodds. Chris Thomas is the sergeant who's in charge of everything.
Thank you.
I
I'll
know
write
we've
that
had
note
some
down.
issues with a person sleeping rough on the green there, and by the church as well. And we have been trying to getting the PCSOs to have a look at those issues there.
Okay, you happy with that, Anne?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Toker.
Hi, it was just a question about PCSO attendance at community council meetings. Whilst we get regular crime stats from ours, we haven't had attendance this year at all. So we're just wondering whether that can be rectified and try to get something maybe at least once a quarter or once every 6 months.
Okay, and that's at St Anthony Community Centre.
St Anthony, yeah. I am aware. I think Richard Mills is our PCSO. Unfortunately, we have spoken to him, and we're aware he has Tuesdays off as his day off, and our meetings fall on a Tuesday, so there is that issue there.
Okay, yeah, Richard is as you say, the PCSO there. I'll speak to Chris Thomas, and I'll make sure that we get some representation there. Obviously, there's a bit of if Richard is having the regular sort of Tuesday off, that he's missing the meetings there. But I'll make sure that going forward we have some representation there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell.
Hi, Gareth. I'm just
Hi.
looking for a little bit of clarification, really. So, as you're probably aware, we've got bylaws in place down on Roos Point against fishing, and there's been a couple of instances where there's been PCSOs and there's been police officers down on site, especially with Operation Eltree in place, and there has been people fishing down there, and basically the police officers and the PCSOs haven't done anything. And then I've spoken to enforcement at the Vale of Glamorgan Council, and they've said that there's because there's no legislation in place to say that officers need to do any enforcement in regards to bylaws, which I do understand that bylaws have been put in place by the council and not by the police, and that it would be at your discretion as to whether PCSO could enforce that. So I'm just looking at a little bit of clarification as to where we stand on that, basically.
Yeah, yeah. The fishing there, we do obviously patrol the area of Roos, and we have our policy is mainly to engage with the persons who are there, who are fishing, and to advise them there is a bylaw there, then they're not to fish there, and to obviously persuade them to leave the area. I would certainly like from the briefings I've given for them to be assertive, and to make sure that the message goes home to them that the bylaw is there. It's enforced by the Vale of Glamorgan Council, but we have sort of discretion whilst working in partnership with the Vale of Glamorgan Council to actually to not enforce it ourselves, but actually report the individuals who are breaking the bylaw there, and give their details to the council there. I know we have enforcement officers. We've been trying to get enforcement officers of the Vale of Glamorgan Council to actually patrol the area as well. That's been unfortunately a little bit infrequent. It's something I'm working with the Vale of Glamorgan Council to try and get them to patrol the area a bit more often. It's an issue going forward. So mainly speaking, we try and engage and try and communicate with them and try and get them to sort of move of their own accord, rather than to say, look, you've got to move straight away. It is more of an assertive conversation to say, look, you can't be here. There is a bylaw here. You're not to fish here. and don't come back again. And the persistent ones who do, then obviously we'll take action against them and work in partnership with the council in relation to it.
Okay, thank
But I
you.
appreciate if we got regular offenders, I'm not aware of regular offenders there. That's the main thing we've been focusing on, is if there are people coming back to the area persistently, then we take action against them.
All right. Okay. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hawkins, please.
Hello. I was pleased to hear you say that there are 8 PCSOs in Lantwit, because it does appear that the rural policing neighbourhood team is sort of shrunk a bit, and being used as well in Arthur and Cardiff. I was just wondering what your commitment is really to preventative policing in the rural Vale, and whether the team will come up to strength or not.
Okay. You broke up. I've got the majority of that, Mr. Hawkins, but you broke up a little bit, so I didn't get all of it. I know you're saying about the numbers
Vale,
there in terms of policing, yeah?
The rural Vale community policing team, really, whether it has shrunk as much as it seems to have, and how often they're being used out of the rural Vale, so in Penarth and in Cardiff, what that does for the preventative policing in the Vale.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Look, we're heavily invested in the Vale. We have a team that works out of, because we've combined our resources now with Penarth, and the whole of the rural Vale is with Penarth and ourselves in with the other station that we have in Llanwyd Major. We have altogether 5 police officers who work out of out of Penarth and also out of Llanwyd Major. I mentioned 2 names earlier who were fantastic officers, Jamie Williamson and Stuart Elson. We also have Rhian Davis there, and also Dan Tunacliffe as well, and a good sergeant by the name of Chris Thomas as well. These persons, some of whom live in the area and have got great investment in the area. In terms of, there have been abstractions over the summer period, a frustration of mine, because the officers are trained in other skills as well. And when we've had disorder across the UK, which happened in the summer with some of the protests that took place in England and across the border, a number of violent protests that took place. Our resources are sometimes used to assist other forces, which certainly happened in the summer. So certainly Jamie and Stuart, they are pulled around a lot to assist football events and to assist with other policing priorities. It's something, unfortunately, which is common to all policing in the UK. It's something which I'm trying to get a grip of, to make sure they're more invested in the Vale and more. Their core role is more in the community of the Vale, as opposed to policing some of these events. And it's something I'm working with our senior command to make sure that the staff I have, their core duties are in the Vale. So it's work in progress. I'm trying to increase the numbers. There's been a positive message sent out from the Chief Constable to say that neighbourhood policing, which will encompass the Vale, is something he wants to support going forward and fill vacancies. So and that's a message which is going out throughout the UK as well. So we are committed. We are invested in the Vale. If there are particular issues you're not happy with, by all means, report them to myself. And if those issues are not being addressed, then I can certainly intervene and help and assist.
Thanks very much. It just does seem that the undertakings that we were given after those serious public order incidents that took place in Nogmal by Sea have sort of been relaxed in some way, and our team is a lot smaller, and not a lot of skills. If something could be done to address that, would be good.
There's a little bit inaudible there, sorry, sir. Can anyone relay what was just said?
Sorry, I was just saying that
Hawkins was saying that his community police officers from that part of the Vale, they feel that they've been less available to them recently, whether it's events over the summer or other things, and they want to you to confirm that that dedication is there.
Certainly the dedication is there. There's no doubt about that. And I'm having conversations with the officers who work there and you know, expressing my frustrations to them and their vice versa, expressing frustrations where they're pulled away on other duties. We do work as part of Cardiff and the Vale, and there are other commitments elsewhere within Cardiff, and there is other demand elsewhere. Unfortunately, on occasions we have got to service that demand elsewhere, which means on occasion some of our officers will be used elsewhere. I know that's something in the Vale communities not everyone's going to be happy about, but it's something we got to work with. But it happens everywhere in Cardiff, and I'm having these conversations on a regular basis. You know, look, we have a team there who are local and also a team who have worked the area for numerous years. So in terms of the police in there, if I just talk about what's happening with the lamping that's taking place, we have 2 officers there who already know this is going to happen. It's a sort of a yearly sort of event, shall we say, and they've all very much invested in it, and they're speaking to other departments within the police, getting an operation together. And I don't have to go and tell them to do this. They're already ahead of the game because they're so invested in the area and they've worked there for so long. So we've got to manage it in terms of what our demand is and what the demand is elsewhere in Cardiff as well. And it's a fine balance, and it's something I'm working with. But I assure you, I want my officers in the Vale, and I want them invested in the Vale and working hard in the Vale.
Okay, thank you very much. Is that helpful, Councillor Hawkins?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Mark Wilson and then Councillor Dr. Parry.
Thank you very much. Yeah, just a few points really. In relation to what Councillor Campbell said, in relation to fishing, one of the areas of my responsibility is partly enforcement, and one of the things that obviously, you know, I'm quite keen to work with South Wales Police in working things together. And then obviously if there's issues relating to people breaking our bylaws concerning fishing, if Councillor Campbell sends me an email, and I will certainly liaise with the local police and our enforcement team as to what steps we can do to support each other over this. But I'm not aware of any particular issues. So if Councillor Campbell can email me, I'd be grateful.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Dr. Parry, please. Councillor Dr. Parry, please.
If you could press your large activation button in the bottom centre of your screen, please, Councillor Parry. Your tile is on screen now, Councillor Parry. Could you press the microphone or the camera symbols that are next to the large button? You're on screen, but your camera and microphone are not on. You did come on screen earlier, so I think your camera and mic may have been deactivated. Maybe we could go to Councillor Phillips, Chair, and I'll try and contact Councillor Parry.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Phillips, please.
Yes, hello Gareth, and welcome. Thanks for coming on. Just going back to my colleague, Councillor Asprey in Dinas Powys. We met you recently at one of our full council meetings, just after you took on the role, I believe. And we raised issues there with the PCSO coverage in Dinas Powys, where the PCSO that we had moved on. And you did say that we were going to get some PCSOs, and it's good to hear that you've appointed, obviously, Luke and Dawn. And I was just wondering, and I'm sure I speak for my colleague, Councillor Asprey, we would like to perhaps meet these two. We've not seen any of them. When can you tell us when they actually took on and patrolling in Dinas Powys, please?
Well, they have been in the area. I know that they have made phone calls to various parties in Dinas Powys. certainly I'm aware of Luke Short and Dawn. They've made certain phone calls and they have been visible in the area. By all means, Mr. Phillips, I'll arrange for them to come and meet yourself and other members of the committee as well. If you want to give me some dates, and I'll make sure that they're amenable for them in terms of their shift. If they're not, you know, I can always. We got a team still working out of Penarth, and if Luke and Dawn are the main persons at the moment, we've been given the responsibility of Dennis Powers, but there's obviously other PCSOs there as well. And if there's certain dates that when people are available, they're not available, for instance, then I can always attach other resources to it. But Luke and Dawn are the main ones.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that Councillor Asprey worked closely with myself, and we one particular area where we're having a lot of problems with a local park where we've had some vandalism, and it's cost our community council quite a bit of money to have the damage repaired. So I think it'd be nice, and I think if they could meet myself and Councillor Asprey at some point, then we can perhaps have a good chat and see what we can do about this vandalism and antisocial behaviour at this local park. That would be very useful, please.
Okay, that's fine. If you have my mobile, so I understand. I did pass it on the last meeting we had when I came to Dennis Powers on the last meeting we had. I also passed my email address as well. I know I have been with the overall email address of Dennis Powers. I have been in communication with yourselves. If you can pass some dates as to when you're available, I'll arrange for them to make contact with you, and we'll get that sorted sooner rather than later.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Thomas.
Thank you for that, Councillor Birch. Hi, Gareth. Just wanted to thank you for the focus on shoplifting in Penarth Town Centre. I know a lot of people are worried about it, residents and businesses. You explained about you're helping businesses to sort of take preventative measures. I was just wondering what you're doing to improve police response times once an incident has occurred. Thank you.
Well, the police response times are it's something which is out of my control. That's done through our control room, and every incident will be graded in terms of a response. There are incidents which carry a higher risk, and naturally they're going to receive a faster response time. But shoplifting is on the agenda. I've spoken to all the teams who work out of Penarth that I want positive action to be taken. I want offenders caught, and I'm looking at it. And we've done some crime prevention there. There are some challenges. There are some stores who could be providing some security there, such as Boots and further up in Tesco's on Penarth Marina itself. But they haven't got any security there, and they do present themselves as an easy opportunist theft for certain individuals who walk into the stores, and have been back and forth there. But we're trying to identify who they are in terms of the CCTV there. It's certainly something that's been raised to me, and I intend to sort it out. I've got some initiatives coming up with my team. We're going to have some days of plain clothes where we're going to look at the various stores which have been affected by the shoplifting. And we're also going to try and do a bit of work to try and look at, we have not a huge issue, and this is a minor issue. We have pockets of the homeless community coming into Penarth. They're coming in from Cardiff, they're coming in by the train. So we're going to do some work with BTP as well to try and put some disruption in place concerning them. So it's not major crime. It's a crime that does obviously require a response, and making sure that we gather those details. But in terms of when I say major crime, we don't have to have a big team of detectives investigating it, because on occasions we have CCTV, we have a body cam from the officers who attend these calls, and it's quite an easy crime to detect on occasions. So it's something I'm looking at. It has on occasions in the past been missed, shall we say, in the background in terms of the other demand that the police are dealing with. And on occasions, it does require a better service. So that's something I'm working on. It's something going forward I've explained to the teams in Penarth, who are the response officers, to make it a priority of theirs, and whenever there's an intervention tactics to for us to arrest offenders, that should take place sooner rather than later. So I'm hoping to see a difference in the next couple of months. It's a tricky one because we're leading up to Christmas. So naturally, more people go out, and there's more volume in the shops. So it is a challenge, but I'm going to look at it to coming up to Christmas, and it's certainly a challenge of mine that I'm going to look to try and bring those numbers down and get control of it, and make Penarth the area it should be, which is an affluent area, crime free. And by targeting some individuals, I'm sure we can get back to that.
Thank you very much. Are you happy with that, Councillor Thomas?
Yeah, that was great. Thanks for the comprehensive answer, Gareth. Thanks, Rhiannon.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Phillips.
Yeah, just another quick one for yourself, Gareth. It's interesting to hear there that you're looking at these initiatives for Penarth, but we had a number of incidents in Dinas Powys over the Christmas period last year, where there was quite a bit of shoplifting in the village stores and at Tesco's. Just wondering if you could make note of that, please, and perhaps pay some attention to that as well as we get towards the run up for Christmas.
Yeah, again, shoplifting is something which I'll be in charge of, and I do look at the numbers of offences that happen all the way throughout the Vale. I'm not aware of any sort of big particular sort of problem at this moment in time in Dinas, but it's something we do monitor, and we will be monitoring coming up to Christmas as well. But if there are particular issues that go unreported, by all means make contact with me, and I think it's something which you can discuss with Luke and Dawn as well when they come to see you, about putting measures in place going forward.
Okay, thanks for that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody else have a question they'd like to put to Inspector Childs, please? No? Okay, thank you very much for coming. It's very welcome that you do so. I mean, some of us get representation from the police to our community councils, but obviously not everybody does. And I know that it's good to feel that you're up to speed on what our local concerns are, because there are a few avenues for us to put these forward. So thank you very much for coming. Don't feel you have to remain until the end. So if you disappear off screen, we'll quite understand. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Are the committee happy to note with thanks then, Chair?
I hope so. Yes. Any objections?
And I'm happy to second that note of thanks as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, agenda item 5 then, please. So South Wales Fire and Rescue Service. I don't know who we've got this month.
Good evening. It's how are you all?
Good. Okay, I'll hand over to you then.
Yeah, so I'd just like to start just to echo Inspector Child's comments initially. We also are part of Operation Elstree, and I know not many people like the wet weather, but it's been kind to us this year. It's seen a massive reduction in our wildfires. The fire service do like the wet weather, not so much for everyone else, but it has had a positive impact on some of the calls and the nature of the calls we are attending. So I'd just like to start to go through some statistics. This, compared to the same period last year, we've attended a total of 190 fires, and we've actually had a decrease of 24% compared to the same period last year. 178 fires of these, in comparison to 190 the previous year, in relation to dwelling house fires. Deliberate dwelling house fires of the ones we have attended were 54%, and accidental were 44%. And we had 2% that are classified as not known, or the cause and origin hasn't been determined. The type of calls that we go to in relation to fires that were attended, just to give you a snapshot of some of the things we've been attending in the Vale of Glamorgan, is outdoor equipment and machinery, such as agricultural machinery, and this may link in with some of the issues that Inspector Childs is seeing with his issues in rural crime. Such as other calls we've attended has been agricultural machinery. Normal road vehicles has been 12%, Dwelling fires have been 14% of the calls we've attended, and only 12% of the calls we've attended has been grassland and woodland crops. The majority of our actual fires has been refuse or refuse containers, such as wheelie bins and small barbecues and the like. I know the discussion of local bylaws was raised with Inspector Childs. We have very similar issues with portable barbecues on the beach. We get calls to attend them, and the crews turn up with what's basically a knapsack sprayer because it's such a small fire, just to extinguish, or if it's a responsible adult who will remain in company with the fire, just to categorise that as a controlled burn. Other residential buildings, 0%. Non-residential buildings such as garages, things like that, small shops, 10%, and outdoor structures are 2%. And outdoor structure is categorised as, for example, a post box or a public telephone. So that's the fires we've attended in the Vale of Glamorgan. Our special service calls we've attended in the Vale of Glamorgan have been 226 so far to date. And these can be anything from rescue or evacuation from water, assisting our colleagues in Welsh Ambulance Service Trust for bariatric casualties, release or rescue of persons, flooding, our medical incidents corresponding, and making vehicles safe, not a road traffic collision. Breakdown the special service calls for you in this particular area. We've had 42 road traffic collisions attended this year to date, and in comparison in the same quarter last year of 49, we've had an increase, unfortunately, of 16%. We've had 9 flooding calls this year, despite the bad weather, in comparison to 5 of the same period last year. We've had 3 water rescues this year, which is mirroring last year, where we also had 3 water rescues. So far this year to date in Vale of Glamorgan, we've had 365 calls in relation to automatic fire alarms. And in comparison to the same period last year, we had 388, which is an increase of 6%. So that's our reactive element of our role. So if I talk about our proactive element of our role now, our community safety activities, just to make you aware, councillors, that we've attended school education programmes across Key Stage 1, 2, 3 to 4. We have visited 74 different school and educational premises and educated 3,421 pupils so far to date this year. And they range from the very young Key Stage 1, which is a tiny, very simple fire safety message for the age 6 and 7, right up to the age 14 to 16, where we start looking at the domino effect and the dangers of driving as they're on the cusp of adulthood and starting to think about going down the route of driving and their do's and don'ts. So it's not just the fire education, it's tailored to meet the nature of the audience.
Mr. Traherne, I think you may have paused slightly. Could I ask you to come off screen and rejoin the screen, please?
Can you hear me if I just have audio only?
That's correct. Yes, we can hear you now. Yes.
Yeah, so apologies for that. My connection is not the best. We've attended 452 homes in this quarter in the Vale of Glamorgan, fitting smoke detectors, heat detectors, and carbon monoxide detectors. 79 of those addresses that we attended were a result of a domestic violence or hate crime referral from our partner agencies. And the way they are slightly different to our standardised home fire safety check is that we do some more crime prevention advice, and we fit things such as letterbox protectors. So if there is a threat of arson or death by fire from wherever the issue is concerned to that household, we put protectors over the letterboxes to stop individuals targeting that address by doing anything malicious in using a fire as a weapon. We've had a very large multi-agency exercise with Penarth and Barry fire stations. This was exercise Aquapark, which involved RLNI, the Coast Guard, and South Wales Police. This was a mass casualty and boat fire collision in the inflatable Aquapark, and this was designed to raise awareness of water safety and the dangers of in and around water. We have seen some issues of tombstoning around Barry and Penarth this year, but again, due to the inclement weather, the amount of incidents we've attended has been relatively low. And the only other thing I'd like to raise at this point of call is that just to make you all aware that as of the 6th of January next year, we are changing our response to automatic fire alarms slightly, as in that in the hours between 1800 and 07:59 hours, we will attend as normal, but in the daytime, we will only attend to automatic fire alarms if the responsible person confirms that there is a fire or signs of a fire at the premises. So that's my update for the last quarter of the Vale of Glamorgan, and I welcome any questions, and I'll try and turn my camera back on for now. Hopefully I won't freeze.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Let's start with Councillor Cave, please.
Thank you for your report. I just wondered if you could clarify for me. You spoke about the increase in road traffic accidents. I think you said over the last 12 months there has been a 16% increase. I wonder if you could give us some understanding of what that was about and why that might be the case.
Let me just pull up I can give you the exact data as well. So if we go to special service calls, we've had 42 road traffic collisions this year in comparison to 49 of the same period last year, which is an increase of 16%. That could be anything down to a driver error or inclement weather. I think I have to turn my camera off again. There we go. Basically, it can be down to driver error or inclement weather. So if the wet season that we've had, a particularly wet summer, that obviously has a negative impact on the amount of road traffic collisions that can occur.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Oh, sorry, Councillor Wilson then, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much for your presentation. I mean, your use of statistics is always very interesting, but one of the things that did strike me is that although you do a lot of presentations to young people, and especially students, I just wondered perhaps the older generation and making them act in a safe way as well, because I think fire prevention is very important in the community. And I know there's lots of new devices like air fryers. I just wondered if perhaps there should be perhaps a bit more training. And also, what be interested to see, you mentioned about domestic fires. How many are caused by, say, electrical issues? I mean, you did mention some are deliberately done, but being the accidental ones, and how many are caused by electrical issues or gas or any other cause of making things flammable? So thank you.
Okay. If I go back to your first point in relation to not just targeting the very young and targeting the more mature members of our community, most of our home fire safety checks are referred from other agencies, such as home care or home help. So if they go to a residence address and spot that they haven't got smoke detection in their property, we get a referral and we attend that address. And obviously we give them some survival guidance to make sure that they've had all the support that we can physically give them in relation to a nighttime routine, closing their doors, switching off the non-essential electrics, and making sure that the property is safe and what to do in the event of a fire. So the majority of our home fire safety checks are of the more mature members of our community, is the politest way I'll say it. And in relation to the electric or cause and origin of fire, you may have seen on the news that we are seeing a spate of the electric push bikes and the chargers for those catching fire. We are seeing an increase in that, and we are doing some community safety work in relation to raising awareness in relation to this training standards and where and when you should purchase and how you should charge these, as in not leaving them unattended, only charge them during the hours of daylight. Because we tend to find that these fires are occurring when people are plugging them in overnight, so they're ready to use the next day, and they're not being made aware of when these fires occur, which results in a compartment fire or a room of origin fire, or worst case scenario, if they haven't done a sufficient bedtime, nighttime routine and closed all their doors, they get a fire that's spread beyond the room of origin. Does that answer your question, Councillor?
Yeah, can I come back? Can I say thank you very much? I just think that obviously people need to know if they can contain a fire, obviously, you know, and they've got the good reason to control it. I just wonder what your advice is at the moment.
Well, our standard community fire safety advice is, if in the event of a fire, you vacate the property with all your loved ones the best you can, and we do what's basically, in a nutshell, do a very quick a nighttime routine, and we do fire drills. So we would tell the responsible person in the property to maintain and practice at regular intervals with everyone who lives in the address, be them very young or very old, what to do in the event of a smoke alarm going off. So, for example, are they all to meet on the landing? Are they to stay put until their parent or guardian comes to get them? And that's something for them to discuss, depending on the nature and the layout or complex of the property they live in. And then once they've practiced it and they know what to do to get out of the property, close the doors behind them if feasible, and stay out and go to a neighbouring property or use a mobile phone to contact us to get us out. That's the nutshell advice we give to any domestic person, any domestic property dwelling.
Thank you. That's very useful.
Yeah, thank you very much. Right, Councillor Phillips and then Councillor Toker.
Thank you, John, for a very comprehensive rundown of the activities that you attended in the last period, etc. Just two things from me, please. Could you just recap the times that you won't be responding to automatic fire alarms?
Yes, certainly. Let me just pull up that document. It's quite a weighted document, so I'm pulling out the pertinent information. So basically, the times are changing in relation to daytime and nighttime risk. So if what's classed as if you have a nighttime or a sleeping risk, we will respond as normal, and they can be premises such as schools, hospitals, prisons. If there is a person sleeping at the venue or large numbers of persons sleeping at the venue, we will still attend as normal. So as of the 6th of January 2025, between 1800 hours in the evening and 0759 hours in the morning, our response model is slightly changing, which basically means automatic fire alarms at commercial, business and workplace premises such as factories or offices and shops. Unless a fire has been confirmed, we will not mobilise during the day. So during the day, the responsible person for that premises will contact us and confirm if there is a fire or signs of fire or not. And depends on the information that the responsible person gives us, will depend on the mobilisation of resource we send to that address.
Okay, thank you for that. Secondly, you mentioned that you attended 3 water rescue incidents. We had one in Dinas Powys, and this week myself and Councillor Asprey actually met the lady concerned. It was quite a serious accident where she slipped down a bank and into like a brook culvert. And having spoken to the lady, the rescue attempt was so delicate. It took almost 2 hours for your crews, who worked extremely hard to extricate the lady from the brook. One disturbing fact for myself, and I'm sure Councillor Asprey would back me on this, is that when they did eventually get her out from the brook, it ended up, I believe, that there was no ambulance available, and your crews obviously arranged and took her to the hospital. I'd like to thank you on that. Are you getting similar type occasions where you're finding yourselves now having to do this where no ambulances are available?
Our colleagues in West are obviously feeling the pressure in relation to the volume of calls they are and the waiting times for getting the casualties to a hospital so they can send the ambulances out again. So yes, we are seeing an increase in waiting times for an ambulance, but that doesn't mean that there's no medical response sent by the Welsh Ambulance Service, because they've got other members and resources that they can send, such as the rapid response vehicle, which itself may not be an ambulance, but there will be a qualified paramedic in there, or sometimes even a doctor. And we've also got, I don't know if you're aware of the HART, the Hazardous Area Response Team. Now, they're a specific branch of Welsh Ambulance Service Trust that are overly trained to use breathing apparatus, and they can come with us and they can do such as high-rise incidents where there could be somebody off the side of a ledge or a cliff. They're actually trained to abseil down with our fire crews to effect a rescue. So sometimes when we find that there's not an ambulance available, that doesn't mean they get specific medical care from the Welsh Ambulance Service Trust.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Toker.
Not a question. I'd just like to say, can you extend our thanks to Lantwick Fire Station for attending our community fair? It was brilliant. They were fabulous. The kids loved it. Everybody loved it.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear
feedback.
Yes, no problem. I will do. Thank you very much for the feedback.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody else have a question or a point to make, please? No? Okay, well, thank you very much, Mr. Traherne. I'm not sure of your rank, I'm sorry. And I'm sure everyone would like to thank you. Again, this is such a useful point of information for everybody that we wouldn't otherwise be able to get hold of this this information. And I'm sure we'd all like to offer thanks to you. As I said, don't feel you have to stay until the end of the meeting, but we're very grateful for your input this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Right, if we could move on then, please. We have local bus services in the Vale of Glamorgan, and I understand that we have, is Kyle Phillips with us?
Yes, Chair, you have Kyle with you. Can I just check that the committee are happy to move and second with thanks on the last item?
Are we happy to do that, please?
And I'm happy to second that.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Okay, so we have Kyle Phillips with us and Gareth Stevens, who has come from Cardiff Bus as well. So if we turn over to Kyle first, I think, and then we'll just see how it progresses. Okay, thank you.
You've just come off screen, Kyle. Oh, you're back on now. Can we hear you?
Can't hear you.
We can't hear you at the moment, I'm afraid, Kyle. If you inserted your headphones after you joined the meeting, it may have caused an issue there. If you can log out of the meeting and rejoin us, leaving your headset set in, and then we'll see you in a second. Thank you. So your leave meeting is on the bottom left tab for you. Hello, Kyle. See you back on screen. Can't hear you, I'm afraid. Just to make sure your microphone isn't muted, is it the button that's next to your large activation button? So you want the large activation button on in the bottom center, but the microphone symbol needs to be unmuted.
Amy, do you want to try and contact him and phone him to see where we are? Get an officer to do that.
Yes, my colleague Matt is looking after the technical. I'm sure he'll try and contact him.
Thank you.
It may be that he needs to rejoin without his headset in.
What will happen if he just takes the headset out? Come on, Kyle.
Hello, Kyle. We can hear you now. I think you've taken out your headset. Could you come back onto screen for me?
Right, can you hear me now?
Yes, Kyle, we can.
Yes, yay.
Brilliant. Okay.
Right, thank you. Sorry about that. I will quickly share my screen and get the report up. Can everyone see the report on the screen?
It's waiting for you to select the source, Kyle.
2 secs. There we go. Can everyone see that? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So committee may remember I presented a report on past, present and future of bus services in the Vale of Glamorgan in April time. And at the end of that meeting, I was asked to come back in 6 months' time and give an update on where we are with bus services as of today. Just briefly going through the report, and again, recapping what I'd mentioned previously. We had at the point when I spoke to you in April tendered for a number of services in the Vale of Glamorgan, which are listed here. They were awarded, and we've now got contracts in place with bus operators for those services. As far as funding goes, you can see there on point 2.2, we're putting in just under £500,000 of council funding. And on top of that, then we're getting £380,000 bus service support grant, which we have had in the past, and the new Welsh Government Bus Network grant of 2.1 million to fund the services as they are today. The premise when we tendered the services was to make sure that the current bus network stayed as it was, as close to as possible. So yeah, we're spending close to 3 million, or just over £3 million a year on bus services. A couple of issues that cropped up during the tender process. Service 7, I know, was mentioned repeatedly because that was tendered by Cardiff Council and the route actually got curtailed, didn't include Landmark Hospital and Penarth. Again, we had the Grange Santos and Syrie service that was tendered by Cardiff Council and remained as is. And as you can see from point 2.5, we've only now got 3 commercial services in the Vale. We had a lot more than that previously, so there's all talk of bus franchising. We're not far off having a franchise bus system in the Vale of Glamorgan. As far as updates, I've listed these by operator. You'll see that there's some slight change to the B3 service with Adventure Travel from the 5th of August, with some additional journeys. Cardiff Bus, Service 7, which I just spoke about. Thankfully, we've managed to get that back as close to how it was before. So it now includes Landmark Hospital and the links with Penarth again. There's a number of variations that Cardiff Bus have put in place from September, which I'm sure if there's any question on those, Gareth will be able to cover those at the end. There were reliability issues and timetable issues, so tweaks have been put across the network to make sure that buses are more reliable. With regard to First Cymru, they put changes to their timetables, particularly the 303 and 304, because they were having really bad reliability issues. We were something like 30% on occasions of buses being on time. Similarly, they've done the same with the X2 now, and the 320 and the 321. And you'll see on point 2.22, we're now up to, or they're now up to about 85% compliancy with their timetables. So that's been a big improvement. And there's currently discussions about running the 304, 320 and X2 into the new Cardiff bus station, which will obviously help with links with other bus services in the city. As far as what we've been doing internally, we had the free travel scheme on the 303 bus service over the summer. Had some figures recently on that. It was a success. It's difficult to gauge whether it was because it was the summer holidays, whether more people used the bus or not. But overall, comparing, if we look at July, August and September, August had about 800 more passenger journeys when the scheme was running. So that proved quite successful. We've done a fair push on the My Travel Pass, which gives 16 to 21-year-olds a third off their bus fares. We've been pushing that through our social media channels, and we've had leaflets and posters which we've distributed. We've got printed timetable leaflets. We've requested those from Adventure Travel and First Cymru so we can get them to the libraries and council offices. Cardiff Bus has already done that, so they've been distributed around. And we're continuing to work with our e-display supplier, Junio and TFW, to try and get the real-time information set up so that on our electronic displays, you'll know when your bus is going to arrive. They're trialling it in Cardiff at the moment, and I heard the other day that the next stop will be North Wales, and then they'll be looking to work with us in the Vale to get that set up so that we can get that on our e-displays. That's pretty much the update. I'm happy to field any questions, and I'm sure Gareth will be happy to field any questions from Cardiff Bus's point of view.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, we've got 2 people hands up at the moment. So Councillor Thomas, Councillor Gerwin Thomas, then Councillor Cave, and then I'll pick up the rest afterwards.
Yeah. Evening, Kyle. Thanks for that. I've got an echo here. I don't know why.
Sorry, I think that may be because either the chair or Kyle's microphone are on. If you wouldn't mind coming off screen, Chair, thank you.
Is that better? Yeah. Thanks for that, Kyle. I want to bring your attention to the bus service 321. It's the Ladbroke Major to Port Talbot bus service. but more importantly, it's the Llanford Major to Cowbridge bus service. Now, it's okay, First Cymru saying that they want to improve reliability, but when they halve the bus service to do so, you can imagine the people of Llanford Major and Cowbridge think it a bit laughable. Do you have any input into this? And is this going to stay as the normal timetable now?
Yeah, so they put the I'm not aware that the service is halved. We've obviously the timetables come through us, but they haven't. They didn't. I know on the 320 a journey was lost, but I'll go back and double check that, because when we went through, there shouldn't be any loss of service. It should just be a revised timetable.
Kyle, there is a massive loss of service, and also I got my echo back, and also the times are very, very irregular. It's 2 hours, maybe 3 hours in some cases between bus services. Now, it's just not acceptable. It's not acceptable when the Western Vale and Coastal Vale family doctors are split between Llanford Major and Cowbridge. So it's a loss of access to doctors for the people who need it. You know, it's simply not acceptable.
Yeah, I'll do some investigating on that, because, like I say, what we presented was not half the service that it was previously. So can I do some investigating and come back to you on that?
Of course you can.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much, Chair.
Councillor Cave.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I do have a question, because obviously representing an area that is very rural in the Western Vale, and having spoken about the bus service that we don't have rurally, although, you know, every council taxpayer contributes to that contribution that the council make towards the bus service, although lots of us, as I say, in the rural Vale don't have it. The bus service that we're expected to use is the Green Link service. And I am really worried about the Green Link service. I know you haven't spoken about it directly, and I hope that you have some information about the Green Link service. I did put a little call out over the last couple of days to ask people about the Green Link service, because in the last, certainly in the last 6 months, I've had a number of complaints from people that the Green Link service isn't operating properly. Particularly, I know at the end of the last financial year, there was a large number of people that received a request for payment, which was an annual request for payment, which ran into hundreds of pounds. And that was an issue for a number of people that live in Clangarn. But recently, in the last couple of days, I've heard from people living in Colwinston, and they tell me, and I'll read what you've said, they say the process of booking the Green Link service is tortuous, and messages are left unanswered. It takes many follow-up calls before a person actually rings back, right up to the day of the required trip. People have no confirmation that the vehicle is going to arrive, and hence they worry that they're going to be stranded and not be able to get to their destination. I realise that one of the problems is the lack of drivers. We can't, because this is a voluntary service run by volunteer drivers, and that we haven't been able to recruit enough volunteer drivers. But it does seem that what people are complaining about most of all is the chaotic state of the department within the council which handles this facility. And for me, it's not very helpful if we say we've got a service which actually we don't really have. So I would like some sort of update on a regular basis somehow about the Green Link service, you know, maybe to come to one of the scrutiny committees on a regular basis so that we as councillors can monitor what's happening here. Because I say in the rural Vale, we're paying for a bus service through our council tax that we don't receive. And this voluntary service is certainly no substitute.
Yeah, no, all those points taken on board. We didn't have a Green Links coordinator for some months. That person's now been in post for the last few months. We have recruited a number of new volunteer drivers. We've really been pushing that. And we're looking to reintroduce the G1 service, which is the service that operated before, that people can use their concessionary bus pass on, which I know is something that's been dying out to happen. So we're looking to hopefully get that introduced in the next couple of months. But yeah, any issues that people are having, if they could be referred to me, and I can obviously take them up with the department. I've taken on board what you're saying. I'll speak to the team tomorrow, because people should be getting a call back the day before they're due to travel and being made aware. So
and certainly,
yeah, I'm a bit confused on that.
Yeah, certainly the issue with sending out an annual invoice to someone, again, these often are elderly people, on only a limited pension. And so to send somebody a bill annually for hundreds and hundreds of pounds is really unacceptable. And as I said before, it would be really good, Chair, if we had an understanding of what scrutiny committee the Green Link service comes to, and how we can have regular updates about what's happening with the service. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if you can answer the question, Amy, of which scrutiny committee the Green Link service would go to, or whether that's something we need to take back and come back to Councillor Cave on.
Yes, it would come under the environmental regeneration remit for scrutiny. Obviously, we aren't able to make the agreement here that be added to that committee's forward work programme. I think the best course of action would be for Councillor Cave to send that request to the chair of the committee as a request for consideration.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, okay, I'm assuming you're happy to do that, Councillor Cave. I'll make a note of it. Okay, next, Councillor Mark Wilson, please.
Yeah, thank you. I know that we got Gareth Stevens, who's from Cardiff Bus, on the call. And I really appreciate him being on the call, because my points are in relation to the operation of Cardiff Bus, mostly in Cardiff. As you know, many people will get buses and I'm from Penarth, and lots of people from Penarth will get a bus into the interchange. And I'm really grateful for the interchange. I think it's a wonderful facility now. It's now nice and warm. You can sit down, relax, and wait for the bus to arrive, and it's fantastic. But of course, many buses do not use the interchange. And the buses I'm really concerned about are buses that use the Heath Hospital. I know there are one or two that do, but not many. And you have to cross a busy road to get the bus from Wyndham Crescent, which is on St. Mary Street. Now, I'm just wondering, are there any plans to try and get more buses to serve the interchange that go to the Heath Hospital? Because that would be good. And the other point I would like to make is that when you are at the hospital, it's not always easy to know which bus stop to use to get to various locations. And I wonder perhaps we can improve that. And the final point is, I think the Cardiff Bus app is brilliant. I wonder perhaps we could publicise it a bit more for residents to use, because actually you can identify a bus and how long it's going to take to arrive. And that's really a good case of reassurance. I'm also delighted that we're going to be using live information on certain bus shelters that got that information as well. So thank you.
Can I bring in Gareth Stevens, please? Hello? No, we can't hear you. We still can't hear you.
Mr. Stevens, it may be that your headset is interfering with your audio. Would you mind leaving the meeting, removing your headset and rejoining? Thank you. Can I just check that the mute button is off for you, Mr. Stevens? So it's unmuted, yes. Would you mind, would you mind exiting, closing down the browser window and reopening from your invitation link, please, just so and just so it closes the browser history. Thank you.
Am I coming through now?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
you are, Stephen.
Brilliant. Okay. Hi. So in terms of Cardiff Bus Interchange, from our perspective, everything which can fit into the facility is in there. I take the point around some of the services which remain outside, but there's more consideration than just simply diverting them through. We've got issues around just how the buses operate within the city themselves and how they loop around. And the number 9 referred to does does cross town, and actually the time penalty to access the interchange it would be something which we would need to really consider, because I think we have got a lot of through traffic, and getting access in and out of the bus station probably would be a penalty of sort of 5 or 10 minutes, which potentially wouldn't be welcomed. I think, but it's something we can, we are keeping on top of in terms of just reviewing stuff. I think in terms of the bus station itself, as I said, we've put everything in there which we can physically fit in there. There's some restrictions in terms of the junctions themselves and the capacity of those junctions, so we just need to be mindful of that. In terms of the Heath Hospital, we have done some work with Carvin Vale Health Board to put some more information into the concourse areas to try to help navigate where nearest bus stops are within the hospital site itself. But again, I'm happy to go back to them just to see, what space is available to us to help guide people to the most appropriate or the best bus stops within the Heath itself. And yet the app, obviously, we've had the app now for over 10 years. The current version is obviously the most developed, the best developed, and as well as accounting for a significant proportion of our revenue stream. It is just giving people information in their hands; they can make a choice and know exactly where their buses are. So,
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wilson, do you want to come back?
Yeah, I mean, thank you very much for that. I mean, obviously, if we could try to minimise people's inconvenience about crossing a very busy road to Heath Hospital from the interchange, that would be really, really helpful. And I do take on your point, it is a busy place, and I fully understand and appreciate, especially on peak times in the morning and in the evening. But thank you very much for your response.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Hawkins, please.
Thanks very much. Kyle. I had some questions, if I could, about the 303 service. I was just wondering, is there a definition of timetable compliant? Really, because the 303 service in Atlanta Major normally is 50 minutes past, and Princess and beyond leaves at 54 minutes past the hour. If the bus is on time, there's enough time to get onto the platform, but usually the bus is just too late to catch the train and there's an hour's wait. And I just wondered what your definition is of timetable compliant. Really good to hear about the success of the 303 trial during the summer. I would think it was probably much better than you've stated, because most of the time when I used it, the drivers just waved people on, didn't make any note or record of how many people had got on. It seemed to me most of the time when I was on it, the bus was nearly full, so it was a really good. I just wonder, is there going to be any sort of assessment of how successful that was? And the last question I had was around, is there any sort of timescale for the real-time information? Are we talking about months or years or decades before it rolls out to the Vale? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take them in reverse order. So the real-time information, I would hope we would be bringing it in early next year. So we're talking months as opposed to years. The free travel scheme, I had asked first company for an update. Unfortunately, I haven't had it through yet as to the success of the free fare scheme. Like I say, I've had some figures from them. I would hope that they were making record of every passenger who used it, because I mean they've given me some fairly hefty numbers. So when I get some more information on them, I can provide an update on that success of the scheme. Sorry, what was the first point you brought up? Was the 303 timings, wasn't it?
Yeah, so, just what you mean by timetable compliant, really.
Yeah. Well, the information has come through from the operator, so they're telling us that they're between 80 and 85% compliant, i.e., the bus is arriving on time. But from what you're saying, that you haven't had that experience. Is that recent? Because obviously it was way out previously. We were talking 30% compliant previously.
The trouble is that the timing for the if you want to integrate it with the train service, then it's very tight. It's only if it's 5 and then you've missed the train. And I'm just wondering whether is there a tolerance when you say is timetable compliant, or is it exactly on time? Because in my experience, most of the time, the 303 just misses the train at 4 minutes later.
I'll have to go back to First Company and see, because obviously they're providing us with that information and see what what they put as compliant. I mean, from my understanding, they're talking about arriving on time. So as far as we're aware, the data we provided is saying 80 to 85% of the time the bus is getting to the stops on time. But I'll get a bit more information off them and feed that back to you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Haynes.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the report. I'm going to take you to the 304, if you don't mind, through St Athan. And point 3.2 on the report, integration, the 5 ways of working. How the bus services supports local integration with commercial network. Well, not if you come from St Athan. If you get a bus from St Athan to, say, Llantic Major, you arrive 4 minutes after the train leaves. And if you go to Roos, it's 12 minutes. So any young people or anyone without any transport from St Athan trying to go to work, for example, in Cardiff, can only leave St Athan at 7 in the morning and arrive in Cardiff at 8:47 on the bus. Now, excuse me a minute, I've just got to mute you a minute. Sorry, Chair, some youth annoyance going on outside. What I'm saying is that people in St Athan, and particularly the amount of new houses we're getting and the amount of new social houses we've had recently, have no means to work in Cardiff unless they can start after 9 o'clock. I wonder if we can look at this timetabling and perhaps consider us in, making sure people can get trains. Now, I have brought this up before, and we're still in the situation we were earlier on in the year.
Okay, I think that might be Kyle.
Yeah. Yeah, that one was with me. Yeah. So yes, we can have a look at that. I mean, when we tendered the services, the Welsh Government kind of directive was to tender the timetables as they were, and obviously that service, the 304, was commercial previously, but like I said in the report, there's not many commercial services left in the Vale now. So yes, by all means, I'll feed that back to the team and we'll have a look at the timetable and see what we can do. It's something we have looked at in the past. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do because of the length of the routes. And I know the 303 and 304 are broken up, joined up services, but in essence, it's one through service. So it's a very, very long route. So I'll take that back with the team and we'll have a look with First County and see what we can do.
If I may come back quickly, Chair, if you don't mind. Yes, bear in mind that I don't see our train station coming anytime soon. We have no other route to get to work without having cars in St Athan. It is imperative that we have decent bus services, and they're only ever getting worse. So please, I thank you for looking into it again.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Richard Cox, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everybody. I'm anxious to remind you, as I did at the last meeting, I make no apology for it, of the socio-economic duty. We need our bus services to be the travel method of choice. We need people to use the bus and the train instead of automatically going for the car. Look at the problems we've got in parking in Penarth and Cardiff. It's very, very frustrating. The buses could be taking the load, but they're not because there's no real consultation. Now, when Penarth Town Council wrote to Cardiff Bus earlier this year, we specifically asked them to let us know, have some consultation about any proposed changes. And yes, the number 7 route came back, but nobody picked up on the fact that it was going to be a completely different route through the town and that a different bus was being diverted to balance that. You may well have had perfectly good logistical reasons for it, but come and talk about them. Councils can help. We may need to look at the whole question about how buses serve Penarth, because we've got a lot of routes that don't really work together very well. We want to get people back on public transport and out of cars. It's government policy and it's our policy. And we hope we can persuade Cardiff Bus to help and work with us to do that. After all, revenue depends on the routes. If the routes and the timing matches what the users want, you will get the revenue. If they don't, then people won't use the buses. And as a result, you'll come back and say, there was no demand. Well, there was demand, you just wasn't in the right places. And that means listening to people. And I really would ask you to do that. As far as the bus station is concerned, and I fully endorse Councillor Wilson's point, because I get frustrated by the same thing, and I know a lot of other people do. The answer would seem to be, until we've got a more permanent solution, ensuring that the buses that go through Cardiff to the bus station can stop at a stop which is served by an alternative service that somebody might want to perhaps transfer to. So, for example, the number 9 stops, I believe, outside the BBC, but the 91 to 95 don't. But if passengers wanted to get on or off at that stop, they could interchange to a service to and from the Heath Hospital. And yes, it's a popular destination, I'm afraid, these days. So that's the sort of thinking that I'm trying to encourage here. Think about what the users want, not just where you can run a bus. After all, people who are going to a hospital are often those who have got difficulty walking, and they're the ones you should be thinking of. And in Penarth, when you moved the 93, that has affected quite a lot of people in the Hastings Avenue area who can no longer get to where they need to. And I can tell you I've had my ear bent on a number of services recently because of the problems that that's caused. So I will say again, Cardiff Bus, come and talk to us. If you really want to help, come and listen. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, I don't know who's going to take that, whether that's going to be Gareth Stevens or Kyle.
I don't mind responding, or Kyle is. I mean, obviously, Councillor Cox, I responded to the email from the town clerk yesterday, I think. Look, from our perspective, yeah, we want to do as much as we can to get as many people travelling by bus. I think there's, we don't just make these decisions off, for the fun of it. There is thought, there is consideration behind it. In terms of Cardiff, in terms of bus stops in the city centre, whilst the bus station or the bus interchanges have released some of the curbside pressure, it's still not an easy operating environment to get everything to be able to sort of line up and sit next to each other, as you suggest. But it's not a foregone conclusion. It's not something we wouldn't regularly happily reconsider. I think in terms of discussions with the Penarth Town Council, absolutely. I've been a Cardiff buster for quite a number of years. We have reached out to the Town Council specifically to be involved in some matters which we think would help, particularly around, I gave the example of the Christmas lights switch on. Buses are diverted, but actually it's an event which the Town Council would want to bring footfall into the town centre. And we'd happily come along and make some ticket offer to encourage people to use the buses to get in there. So, we're willing to engage with whoever, whenever, if it means there's some serious discussion about getting more people to use bus services.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if Kyle wants to come in as well. It might not be appropriate.
I was just going to say that we welcome feedback, and we quite often get feedback from residents about services. And then obviously any requests, we try and work with the operators to see what we can do. So yeah, again, we would always welcome feedback on anything.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cox, did you want to come back? I see your hand is still up.
Yeah, you already raised it, Chair. Thank you very much for spotting that. I wanted to make 2 points. First of all, you made the change to the services 7 and 93 on the 1st of September. Now, if you're going to get publicity out to people about a change in the services, then surely August is when they're on holiday, and that's the 1 month of the year that your publicity isn't going to be successful. People aren't going to get the message about the changes that are coming up. And from what I understand, your drivers haven't got the message either. We've got some of them using the old routes. You really have got an internal education problem as well as a public education problem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Right, Councillor Phillips. Oh, sorry, do you want to come back?
Yeah, yeah. So obviously, service changes take time to register with the Office of the Traffic Commissioner. That's 6 weeks. We started to publish our changes towards the end of July. As Kyle noted, we had our timetable guides out as far and as wide as possible as soon as they were back from the printer. In terms of driver following the routes, there was an issue on Saturday morning I'm aware of. But the 93 is a route which, out of our 450 drivers, they will do infrequently. So I don't disagree. We need to do more to make sure that they follow the route. But in defence, I guess, it's not something that they will be doing on a daily basis. So yeah, point noted.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Phillips.
Yeah, thank you for that. One really for Gareth, and we formed a local transport liaison group in Dinas Powys, and we work closely with Gareth, who comes and meets with us quite regularly. In fact, sorry, Gareth, we had to cancel the planned meeting for today. But as you know, the circumstances surrounding that. But we look forward. Yeah, and you know yourself, and you might want to comment on it, how we work closely together with the small group that we set up. And we've been up monitoring services, and we thank you very much. The feedback that we had from the extension of the 95 service now, where we have the late night services, serving Dinas Powys has gone down very well with our constituents. And thanks very much for that. And I guess that Kyle has something to do with that as well. So yeah, we're really pleased with that, and thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if anyone needs to come back on that, or it's just a comment. No? Okay, Councillor Asprey, please.
I just feel I need to support what Councillor Phillips has just said, that Gareth Stevens and Cal Phillips have been very, very helpful to us at Dinas Powys, answering all the awkward questions that we put to them. So just thank you both.
Thank you. Right, I've got 2 hands up, 2 people. Malcolm, did you want to come back, please?
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, I just got one other for Kyle Phillips, and it's supporting earlier Councillor Cave, who brought up the issue regarding green links. And I know that we've raised this with Kyle before. We've had problems in Dinas Powys with green links, and people highlighting the same problems. about unanswered calls and no confirmation, etc., and all that. And I know that Kyle was going to look into that for us. If you can give us an update on that, Kyle, for the Dennis Power situation.
Yes, I will, Mark. I'll be looking across the board with what's going on in the team. So yes, I will do.
Okay, thank you. If there are no more questions, I'd like to thank both Gareth Stevens and Kyle Phillips for coming on and being interrogated. It must be hard to be put on the spot. But thank you. It's been very useful, actually, because you'll see that people don't feel they always have a point of contact. And it's been very useful to be able to ask you these questions. I don't know if you want to make a comment there.
Yeah, look, more than happy to attend these sessions if you see fit, and obviously thank you for the opportunity to join tonight. Just in terms of what Malcolm said, look, I think from our perspective, we're willing to work with, as I said, whoever, whenever, if it means that people are going to sort of positively help get people to use bus services.
Thank you very much for that. You're going to regret saying that. I think we would like to see you come quite often, actually. We meet once every 3 months, and I think we'd be quite happy to see you twice a year. I'm sure everyone's going to agree with me on that. No one's disagreeing with me. So I think that would be quite useful, actually, if we saw you more often. Perhaps we could talk about that. Kyle.
I was just going to mention that it would probably be worth First Cymru and Adventure Travel as well, because obviously we've got the other bus operators in the Vale, and obviously the committee is Vale wide, so it would probably be worth extending an invite to those operators as well.
I don't know. You're on now?
I'm sorry, Chair. You weren't on screen then. We didn't hear your response to Kyle.
I apologise. Right, I said how useful it would be, and he was telling us. Obviously, you heard what Kyle said, and I'm saying that I think everybody would welcome the opportunity to have more input into buses, bus services, etc.
If you're minded to, Chair, I can add a recommendation for this item that we look into contacting the third-party providers and look to see when we can coordinate them to be available for a future meeting of this committee.
I think that would be a very good idea. I think everyone will be in agreement with that.
And I'm happy to second that, Chair, as well.
Thank you. Right, thank you both. Don't feel you have to stay till the end of the meeting. Right, I'd like to move on to agenda item 7, please, which is the Public Services Board annual report. And I think we have got Tom waiting to talk to us. Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed, Chair. Good evening, committee. Thank you for taking this. This is a reference to your committee from Corporate Performance and Resources Scrutiny Committee. That's the designated scrutiny committee for the Public Services Board. And this is the annual report covering the first year of the PSB's Wellbeing Plan. As committee members will know, the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act requires PSBs to firstly assess the state of wellbeing in counties across Wales, and then importantly to produce a set of local objectives that are designed to maximise the PSB's contribution to the national wellbeing goals. And it does that through a wellbeing plan that was published back in 2023, spans 5 years. So the report that you've got on your agenda this evening covers the first of the 5 years of the plan. Over the last year, the PSB has been submitting individual progress reports on different aspects of work to various scrutiny committees. And then this is all consolidated in the annual report that you've got in front of you this evening. It was considered by the board itself on the 3rd of July and then has been published and has also been scrutinised by Corporate Performance and Resources, who've referred it to your committee this evening for your information and also your consideration as well. Just by way of a brief introduction to the plan, there are 3 wellbeing objectives within the PSB's sphere of work. To create a more resilient and greener Vale, a more active and healthier Vale, and a more equitable and connected Vale. And alongside those 3 wellbeing objectives, the PSB has also established 3 particular work streams that priority is being given to across the 5-year term of the plan. And they are responding to the climate and nature emergencies, working with people who live in our communities that experience higher levels of deprivation, and becoming an age-friendly Vale. And the plan itself is built around 19 individual steps that, in different combinations, work together in order to deliver those objectives and those priorities. So the report that is appended to your reference this evening, members, provides a really wide-ranging update in terms of the work that has been underway across the year. Some notable things for committee that the Vale has become the 4th local authority area in Wales to join the WHO's global network of age-friendly cities and communities. It's been awarded the age-friendly status, and work is now underway in developing and delivering an action plan. We've been very grateful to have received shared prosperity funding, which has enabled us to fund a community development post working within 3 of the specific local areas within Barry that are the most deprived within the county and within the top 10% most deprived in the country, and taking forward work in order to understand and then change the way that services are provided and work alongside people living in those communities. And also, the report makes reference to a significant amount of work that has been undertaken by partners collectively and individually in tackling nature and climate emergencies. One of the things that the report particularly draws out is the Youth Climate Conversation event that enabled young people to design an event to challenge the partners who make up the PSB in terms of some of the areas that are most relevant to them. And they selected transport and waste and recycling as particular issues that were important to them. So the report gives you a huge amount of information, so I won't go into it in massive detail, but I did want to draw attention to the particular aspect relating to town and community councils. We're very grateful that town and community councils have participated really actively in the exchange events that have been run as a sort of subgroup to the Public Services Board. It's been chaired by the Vice Chair of the PSB, and town and community councils have come together to talk about a real range of issues, including amplifying prevention, so the work of public health and the 2 local authorities across the region. We've talked about the Vale Nature Recovery Plan, and also that engagement then helps us to build on the work that town and community councils are doing within your local areas. The report also provides links to the evidence base, which makes up that assessment of general wellbeing in the area. And I wanted to draw that to Town and Community Council's representatives' attention, because it is a really useful set of data that's available for you to inform the work that's happening within your communities as well. So it's been brought to your committee this evening, Chair, for information and consideration, and of course happy to take any questions that members may have.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, do we have any questions, please? No? Right, Councillor Cave.
Yes, I'm wondering if we don't have any questions here, because this report is so long and also very relevant to the officer that's bringing it, no doubt, and probably quite relevant to the Vale Council. But I'm wondering if other members from our town and community councils are struggling to understand its relevance to them. And I wonder if that is an issue of engagement. I know Tom has spoken here about, I think his term was almost like a subgroup in terms of engaging with town and community councils. But I actually wonder what that engagement really is on the ground, and whether people's sort of unwillingness to pose any questions here is because the report is very long and not necessarily appears immediately relevant to the members that are here.
Okay, thank you. Tom, I'm going to throw that back to you.
Thank you very much indeed, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Cave. I think it's a really important and interesting question. I think there are a few different aspects of the answer. In terms of relevance to town and community councils, I think it generally is. It particularly is to those town and community councils or those town councils that have got specific duties under the Act because of the size of the turnover of those councils. So, for example, Lantwit, Penarth and Barry town councils have specific duties in order to consider this report, the wellbeing plan of the Vale PSB, and to report the contributions that those town councils are making due to their size. My apologies for my relatively loose language in terms of like a subgroup. It is a recognised group within the PSB, that Town and Community Council Engagement Group, and it's been relatively well attended by a range of different councils from right across the Vale, including some of the smaller community councils. And I think that's where there is an opportunity to connect the work of the PSB at a very local level. The work of the PSB is at that really high strategic level, and the reason for wanting to establish that engagement group is very much in order to try and translate those objectives to a local level that feels meaningful. And I think there are some really good examples of where that engagement group has achieved significant things on the ground, for example, through the local nature partnership. For example, it's also a really useful consultative group to be able to bring certain issues to for discussion outside of more formal settings. And I know that the representative from Town and Community Councils, Councillor Hodges from Barry Town Council, who represents the sector on the PSB, has also participated really actively in that as a way of making a link between the PSB and Town and Community Councils. This kind of report is very long. It covers a huge range of information, and I think the feedback from Councillor Cave is really useful to me. And what I'll do is I'll take that back to the team to reflect on. In future, can we make a sort of executive summary available that might be a slightly more digestible format? But we are absolutely committed to making sure that the connection is made with the town and community councils.
Right, where are we? Yes, I thought Shirley would want to come in. Councillor Hodges.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me. I echo really what Thomas said. This is very high level policies. The most important thing about the Public Service Board is getting these organisations together in the room to actually discuss the whole of the community together. I've been to the exchange meetings as well. Not all of what the Public Service Board does translate to town and community councils, and I agree a lot of it is more centred around the towns and the larger the communities in the Vale. However, saying that, I think it's really important that it carries on doing the good work it's doing. Some of it seems quite obvious, but it has to be stated that we want the best for our community and our citizens. And I would really, really encourage all the town and community councils to get involved in all the meetings that they can. Thank you.
Can you hear me, Councillor Perry?
I can hear you. Hopefully you can hear me. Just to sort of add on to what Christine Cave was saying a little bit earlier, that we've had a lot of documents where the previous meeting was cancelled because of lack of business, and we've got a lot of documents for this meeting, and I don't know what the exact reading time is for all of it. I know I sat down and read for 2 hours non-stop and still didn't get through it yesterday. So perhaps we can consider the reading time ahead of a meeting for members of town and community councils, and whether there's too much documentation being sent, because if you send too much, we don't read it, then we can't ask questions.
Sorry, it seems to me that Tom has taken on board the idea that there needs to be a kind of digest of the whole document for people who are not able to devote the time to reading the whole report. I can see that would be a valid consideration. And I'd like to bring in Councillor Cave and then Councillor Burnett, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm really pleased that this point has been taken on board and expanded somewhat by other councillors. I would say that it should be remembered that our community councillors are volunteers, and under the Boundary Commission review, it has been proposed that those, especially in the rural vale, those volunteer numbers be slashed. And that means that the duties that fall on the volunteers will become more onerous, and therefore reports of this nature really do need to be looked at so that they can be read in a way that makes them understandable, easy to read, and relevant. The relevance is really important. You're not going to get anybody to engage with anything if they can't see how it is relevant to them.
Sorry, Councillor Burnett, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's really encouraging to hear how much interest there is in the work of PSB. I'm actually the chair of the Vale of Glamorgan PSB, and I think the one thing that struck me is that this is a forum in which a wide range of public bodies come together and share information. We share various strategic plans, we share various consultations, and we actually get to understand how we can work together. Very similar to the conversations that have been going on tonight, in terms of the more you share information, the more you spot synergies and potential collaborations. And I think going forward, we know that collaboration is a much more effective way of delivering services effectively. When we look at some of the stuff that's happened as a result of that collaboration, there's actually been work ongoing in the what's called the Pencoitra cluster into an in-depth mapping of community needs. There's some really interesting information coming out of that, which I hope will be shared in the fullness of time. If you look at the work that's been happening in Llantwit Major over the last few years in terms of addressing poverty, addressing cost of living implications, etc. And through that we can learn, and we can hopefully take that to other areas as well. So I think the local nature partnership has already been mentioned, and these are all things that have come out from one member of the PSB sharing information, other people thinking, well, actually, that is something that we can all contribute to. There have been posts funded. We don't get a lot of money in the PSB, but actually there have been posts where we've wanted to look at things more in more depth, and I said that funded the community mapping in the Pencoitra cluster. The other side of it is the collective understanding of some of the issues that we are facing across the Vale. And I think that's where the strength, again, of this committee is, that it's amazing how much shared expertise and understanding there is in committees such as this, as there is in the PSB. And I take on board about the amount of information, but actually you'd be amazed at the social and human capital that is present in such committees as this, because people don't tend to do only one thing in their community. They actually end up on a board of something else and in a committee to discuss something other, and on a forum. So there are always opportunities for people to add additional, input into various things. So we'll look at how we can make things more accessible, but I wouldn't want to restrict members' access to information where an understanding of that information might actually help us all to do our jobs more effectively. So sorry if that's a bit of a ramble, Chair, but it's the outcomes of the PSB have actually mainly been because of people getting together and sharing what the respective organisations have been doing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, so okay, what we've taken from this then is that people are finding it quite difficult to digest, and so we're going to have a digest of it presented the next time that this comes around, please. Though I think a digest would be quite welcome if it could be sent out in the next few weeks so that people are able to take the information back to their local councils. So if there are no more questions, I'm going to thank Tom for his presentation and know that he's taken on board what we've said. And the next point is, and we're going to take item 10 next because it seems to be most relevant here, which is the nomination of representatives from town and community councils for the Public Services Board. And obviously, since we are sending delegates there, nominated representatives, it's up to them. It's up to us, really, to make sure that these are people who are committed to doing the work. So if it's possible to have any nominations, please. Councillor Nick Hodges.
Thank you, Chair. Good report. Importance of the PSB, I think, is well stated. I think as well the praise for the present member in there and is Councillor Shirley Hodges, who's just spoken as well, and I'd like to formally nominate her to take up the role again for the future. Thank you.
Sorry, do I have a seconder for that nomination, please?
Yes, I'd like to second Councillor Shirley Hodges, please, for the reasons actually on the computer in front of me. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Okay, Councillor Cave, please.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to suggest, actually, prior to Councillor Hodges nominating Mrs. Hodges, Councillor Hodges, I was going to suggest that maybe we have somebody that hasn't done this role before, because the more people that get involved in this role from a community and town council perspective, the more able they are as individuals to disseminate the importance of this committee more locally. So I was actually wondering whether we actually need to share this role about so that people actually get a better understanding. It's one way to get a better understanding of the input that various town and community councils can make, possibly.
Have you got a suggestion as to how we would share this about rather than having one nominated representative? Councillor Cave.
Yes, Chair, I do. I think that no one should be able to sit longer than one term and then it falls to somebody else.
Okay, but I think that would require us to make rules that we are not in the process of doing it. So that's not on the agenda, and people.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that, Chair. But I'm just suggesting that that may be one way, possibly, to for us to think about as a committee, who else might be able to take this forward, and that might widen the understanding of the committee or the service board generally. If we have the same person from the same town or community council always on this committee, it does sound to me like we're not going to get everyone fully on board and understanding what's happening here. So to share it in some way, I don't know how that would be. And I'm not saying we need a rule, but maybe just the principle, an understanding of why we would do that.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a nomination then?
Yes, Chair, I'd like to nominate somebody from a community council. I don't know if anybody wants to come forward and nominate themselves, but if they don't, I'm happy to nominate Councillor Carl Hardy, because I know he is from a rural community council.
Carl Hadley, is that right? Does that got a seconder, please? Does that have a seconder, please? Councillor Haynes?
I'll second to facilitate the action, Chair.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just writing all this down, right. Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Chair. I would very much like to nominate Councillor Cuddy from Penarth, who served on this committee previously and did an excellent job, and I think it would be nice to have him back there, if we may. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wilson.
I would like to formally second Councillor Cuddy for the reasons given as Councillor Cox correctly expressed.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you both come off the list then, please? Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you. I was just going to follow up from Councillor Cave's suggestion. My suggestion would be that there should be a representative from a town council and from one of the rural community councils, making an additional representation. The best of my recollection, it has always been a councillor who is on the Public Service Board, maybe one, but there is for the smaller community councils here on the PSB. And I think there should be two representatives from here, one from a town council and one from a community council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Right, I'm going to go to Amy and ask whether it's possible for us to send more than one representative to the Public Services Board, please. And then I will take everybody up. Right, okay, so I'm going to ask Helen to come in, please, or Tom, depending on who's got the answer, please.
Thanks, Chair. The PSB has invited, through its agreement to the PSB, that they would like a nominee from or appointment from this committee to represent town and community councils, and one person to hold that position for 2 years. Originally, when it was first invited for a representative from this committee to be part of the PSB, it was only for 1 year, but it was felt at that time that 1 year wasn't long enough for the person to kind of get I suppose, more engaged with the PSB, and that 2 years would provide a better opportunity to be a member of that PSB. So that's why it's for 2 years. And as I say, it's the PSB has asked for one nomination. So if the committee wanted to go back with a different proposal, we'd need to take that back to the PSB to agree for the PSB that that's what they would be happy to accept.
Okay, thank you. So that's left us in the position of having one delegate then, and asking the Public Services Board if they'd be prepared to accept more than one representative. Okay, so Amy, and then I'll take Councillor Toker.
Yes, Chair, just obviously to confirm that if the committee are minded to go back to the PSB to make a suggestion of having a town and a community representative, then obviously that would be your vote this evening in the first instance. And then, so we wouldn't actually identify an individual as per the report presented. You'd make a different recommendation that you are voting on that premise for the sake of this evening. Just wanted to make that clear.
All right, thank you. Councillor Toker.
Just a very random question. When you're asking for nominations, a bit of pertinent information might be where and when these meetings meet, because obviously some of us work, some of us are retired, so it's who can actually make these meetings as well.
Right, I think we'd have to ask. Right, Helen, do you want to come back on that, please?
Thank you. Yes, the PSB standard has 5 meetings during the year of the board. They are held during working time, and they can vary as to whether they're in the morning or the afternoon and what time. So you've got 4 statutory members of the PSB. So we need to ensure that all of those can be present at every meeting. So the meetings are usually arranged around making sure that that can happen. In addition to those board meetings, there are often then workshop or other subgroups of the PSB that take place during the year, but the majority of meetings are during the working day.
Okay, I don't know if that answers your question, Councillor Toker.
Yes, it answers the question, and unfortunately it pretty much excludes some of us that work from attending these meetings as much, however much we'd like to be involved.
Okay, thank you. I accept that. Right. Okay. So what do people want to do? Do they want to not nominate anybody and send a request to the Public Services Board asking for 2 representatives, one from a town council and one from a more rural community council? Councillor Perry.
Yeah, I think that's what we should do. One from a small rural place and one from a town council, and perhaps I think obviously Councillor Hodges will continue until we send a new person. But on this first instance, if you want someone there for 2 years, then you at our next meeting nominate one person for 1 year and the other person for 2 years, perhaps, and then you alternate years send somebody, because then you've got a little bit of continuity potentially. That's my sort of suggestion on that.
Okay, thank you. So Councillor Summers and then Councillor Wilson, please, and then I think we're going to wrap this up. Councillor Summers.
Councillor Summers, if you could press your large activation button, please, in the bottom centre of your screen.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, I would just like to second that proposal that we go back and request that there are 2 representatives on the board, one from the towns and one from the rural Vale. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to be thinking about this quite strategically, because we got to understand, will the Public Service Board accept us saying to need 2 representatives? Also, we also got the issue of timing as well, because the next meeting, as we know, we only meet 4 times a year, this committee. We might need to convene an extraordinary meeting to discuss this issue as well, given the fact the Public Service meets 5 times a year. I'm just wondering if we get clarification from Helen if that's likely to accept 2 members. If they are like to accept 2 members, will we consider it now or will we consider another meeting?
Thank you. Right, Councillor Summers, I'm assuming that's a legacy hand. Councillor Cave.
Yes, thank you, Chair. One of the things I was thinking is that I think obviously if we're going to make this recommendation that we have somebody from a rural community council plus somebody from a town council, it might be worthwhile allowing the town councils and the community councils to consider this while the actual option is being considered, and over the next couple of weeks put their names forward, and then have a meeting where we do have a selection of people that are willing, or at least putting their names forward, that we can then vote on. So yes, a special meeting for this might be in order, because I think it will be a change to what's gone on already, and those members that are here tonight might need a bit of time to think about that change, should it go ahead.
Right, okay, thank you. So to summarise, my understanding is that we wish to approach the Public Services Board and ask them if they will accept 2 representatives, one from a town council and one from a more rural community council, and wait for their response. In the meantime, we would allow Councillor Hodges to continue representing us. And we will have to wait for that response from the Public Services Board in order to work out what we're going to do next. Depending on the speed of their response, that may require, as Councillor Cave said, a separate meeting, or it may have to wait until January, when I think the next meeting is. Are we happy to go ahead like that, please?
Yes, Chair, I'll be happy with that.
Councillor Wilson, yes?
Yeah, I would say yes, but I would like some comments from either Helen or Tom on the call about this matter.
Thank you. Well, I don't wish to put them on the spot. They don't represent the whole committee. Tom.
Thanks very much. And I can't speak obviously for the PSB itself, but we are meeting as the Public Services Board in early December. So picking up on your summation, Chair, and Councillor Cave's point in terms of allowing town and community councils some time to consider, perhaps actually that timescale is not too difficult. And then if your committee were minded to approve Councillor Hodges continuing until your next meeting, actually that timescale could work quite well. So what we could do is, with your permission, take your recommendations to the Public Services Board in early December. We can then confirm what the decision of the board is, and that would enable a vote either for 1 or 2 representatives, depending on what the board determine, to be happening then at your next scheduled meeting.
Right, thank you very much. Okay, so you heard what I thought, or what I understood the discussion to have brought us to. So if we're happy to go ahead with that, we're going to allow Councillor Hodges to continue to represent us. And the recommendation is that we ask the Public Services Board whether they will be prepared to accept 2 representatives from the Community Liaison Committee, 1 from a town council and 1 from a more rural community council, to go to the Public Services Board meetings. Are we happy with that recommendation? And do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Hanks.
Yes. Happy to second that, Chair.
Thank you very much. Sorry, Amy.
Yes, I was just going to say, Chair, that you have got that seconded and that there has been no dissent. So you're happy you can take that vote by no dissent.
Right, thank you very much. Okay, so we will move on then, please. We will go to the agenda item 8, which is the reshaping programme, strengthening communities. And yes, I'm not quite sure who's taking this report, please. Who am I handing over to? Helen, right? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. So this report has been referred by Cabinet, and it builds on a report that came to this committee earlier this year. And it's an opportunity to share the results of the work that was undertaken by Compass on our behalf, and also in terms of what the steps forward will be in terms of those recommendations. And it fits neatly with the next agenda item in terms of the draft corporate plan. So within the report, we've detailed the findings of the work, I say, that was undertaken on our behalf by Compass. And this was in order for us to respond to 3 reports from Audit Wales that were all Wales reports on tackling poverty, as well as a report that they'd undertaken was about specifically the Vale on relationship with the third sector. So the opportunity was taken to bring a number of items together and ask them to engage with both council officers and the third sector, social enterprise and town and community councils in terms of identifying the way forward in terms of those recommendations within those Audit Wales reports. And it was also considered timely because we were looking to develop the new corporate plan, we were refreshing our reshaping programme, and we were aware that both the Town and Community Council Charter and the Voluntary Sector Compact needed reviewing. So as I say, within the report and the appendices, you'll see the findings and the recommendations of this work. And in terms of that work that Compass undertaken, the methodology is set out here, but they engaged with, as I say, a number of different organisations to seek their views in terms of working with the council and our work on poverty, officers from across the council, and they also considered a range of different documents within that. So in paragraph 2.9, we set out some of the key issues that they identified. So in terms of there being some good practice for some of the work that was being undertaken, but there were areas for improvement. So they noticed that in terms of work around tackling poverty, some of the work was very much short-term funded through grant funding. There wasn't necessarily always an understanding of the full impact of that work, and there were more opportunities for joining up. In terms of the work of the social enterprise sector, which was something particularly that had been focused on in the Audit Wales report, they recognised that there was a need for greater knowledge of the sector and engagement across the Vale. But there was also some very positive feedback in terms of the relationships between the council and other organisations as well that could really be built on. Attached to the report is Appendix A, which sets out the findings of Compass broadly across that work, but then Appendix B is more specifically the findings of the work that was undertaken with town and community councils. And it was felt that this was an opportune moment to have those parallel conversations to help shape that work forward. In terms of how the work is being taken forward, which is set out within this report in 2.23, the work around tackling poverty and strengthening that, and in terms of a policy or strategy around that, there's a greater focus within the draft corporate plan that we're due to consult on starting next week, and that is, as I say, the next agenda item tonight. So that's got a stronger emphasis within the corporate plan, setting out some key actions, and under all the objectives within that corporate plan, you'll see that we've picked up aspects around work to tackle and prevent poverty. We've included within the corporate plan a relationship statement which sets out what organisations can expect when working with the council, and that cuts across all organisations, town and community councils, social enterprise, third sector and community organisations. And this responds to a number of the issues where we had that people felt that sometimes the communications from the council weren't always accessible, weren't always timely, and that there needed to be sort of stronger points of contact, and there could be differences in those levels of engagement. So we're starting to pick up a number of these recommendations through the draft corporate plan. We're also looking to review the compact with GVS in terms of those references to the voluntary sector compact, and work will hopefully start in the new year as part of the ongoing development of the corporate plan around the town and community council charter as well. We've picked up the recommendations around work with the social enterprise sector and then developing more understanding of the opportunities through that sector, and that'll be picked up through the reshaping programme. And you'll also see from the report that work is already advancing through work with social services around the Section 16 forum, which is a requirement of the Social Care and Wellbeing Act, and there's been some good progress there around those strengthening those links, and that will be something we'll also be looking at in terms of models for future work as well. So as they were sharing the report this evening, so that we can build on the previous report that was shared with this committee about how this work is being taken forward. And you'll see in Appendix B where we've detailed more specifically the conversations that were taking place with town and community councils, that there were 15 participants within that, which cut across 9 town and community councils. And that was a combination of focus group discussion and some one-to-one conversations. Some of the issues that were raised there have been picked up hopefully within the draft corporate plan, and again we'd be welcoming feedback through the consultation period on that, about strengthening the relationship between the council and other organisations, how we can collaborate more and look at opportunities. And some of this work will have already been progressing in recent months through the placemaking activity as well. So one of the comments made by Compass through the work was that they could already see things that were changing as part of the work the council was undertaking. So as I say, we wanted to just bring this report to this committee today. It will also be considered by the Voluntary Sector Joint Liaison Committee next week to, as they share with you, the findings of the work of Compass and how those recommendations are being taken forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. It's a very comprehensive report, and I think it's important that community councils and town councils are aware of what is being done, bearing in mind the cost of living crisis that we have at the moment. So that's very welcome. Can I ask Shirley Hodges? Come on, Shirley.
Thank you, Chair. I think, having had a look at the report, one of the things I'm particularly frustrated about is about communication. I think communication between town and community councils is particularly poor, and it doesn't seem to me to be improving at all. I mean, a few weeks ago, the town council, Barry Town Council, was contacted by the Vale to say that the Vale would not be providing a Christmas tree or Christmas lights on King Square this year, and would we pay for it or provide that service, which we actually made a decision under urgent action for an extra £15,000 to go in our Christmas budget for Christmas lights, which raised it to 25,000. And I think taking on the responsibility was something I was happy to do. But then I was told that the Vale actually was ordering the tree, and we were just meeting the bill. And there's a feeling there that the Vale is presenting bills out to town and community councils for things it can't afford anymore. So it's not a conversation, it's not inclusive. It's either you pay for it or it doesn't happen. And I just feel that that's just not right, the right way to do business, to actually present us with something at the last minute, and we're stuck in a position that there is no debate. You just got to meet the bill. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cave.
Thank you, Chair. I think Councillor Hodges raises a really good point here that highlights the discrepancy between the town and the community councils that we've been really alluding to most of the evening. Because in the rural community councils, I can tell you that they always pay for their Christmas trees. The council, the Vale of Glamorgan Council, has never paid for their Christmas trees, and it has always come out of the community council budget. So you can see from the very beginning, there's a big discrepancy between the community councils and the town councils. I can see in the document that's been brought before us that the audit office were quite scathing, actually, about the attempts by the Vale of Glamorgan Council to engage with the voluntary sector. And I think it said words to the effect of the engagement was too narrow, or certainly too restrictive. The number of voluntary organisations that they were engaging with, again, was too narrow and too restrictive, and it needed to be opened up. So that's what it would be nice to see. It would be nice to see something different happening to what's happened last year and in all the years previous, and to really take on board some of the things that the audit office has highlighted.
Can I come in there and say that as leader of Penarth Town Council, we have always paid for our own Christmas trees. So it's not a universal that the Vale has been providing this service to all town councils and that community councils are the only ones picking up the tab. We have always paid for our own. I don't know about what happens in the rest of the Vale. I'm sure we're going to be told, though. Right, Councillor Perry, followed by Councillor Hodges.
Hi. Yeah, there's obviously quite a bit of inequality because in some places the Vale owns community centres and other places it doesn't, and then it's up to the church or the town or community council to then provide it. So we've got inequality. Roos hasn't got a community council, and yet we don't seem to see much difference between Roos and where we've got town and community councils providing services. That needs to be looked at. And again, then with S106. Town and community councils have very little say ordinarily on how that money is spent and squandered, as happened in St Nicholas on the public art that I've highlighted several times. And I think it's still a struggle for communities to have a say in where their S106 is spent. It's monopoly nearly of officers, and you have to sort of struggle a little bit to have the public's voice heard. And there are different stakeholders, but sometimes the really important stakeholders, those whose money was spent in those houses that generated the S106, are not heard clearly enough or completely ignored. So across the board, there needs to be a change of culture in the Vale of Glamorgan Council still. And we've been talking about this for 8 years, and it's a very, very slow change. In fact, the change isn't really happening at all. So we need to work on it much harder.
Thank you. Councillor Shirley Hodges and then Councillor Haynes.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not complaining about the cost of the tree, and at the end of the day, it's the responsibility. The Town Council in Barry does not shirk its responsibility and is more than happy to take on the responsibility of paying for the Christmas decorations in Barry. It's the way it was done. That was the issue. There was lack of communication. And fundamentally, when it comes to Christmas trees, I don't have any power in telling the Vale Council what it pays for. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Haynes.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the report. Oh, I'm not on screen, am I? Sorry. Can you see me now? Yes. Thank you again, Chair. Right, I'd like to take you to section 3 of the draft report. If I remember rightly, the title of it is Developing a New Plan, which is quite important, and it's something that I think the Vale fails terribly at. I'll specifically talk about our ward, St Athan, and specifically talk about the item in there as placemaking. I have tried to engage with the planning department on placemaking. St Athan Community Council have tried to engage with the planning department on placemaking. Yet no one will engage with us because no one will. The Welsh Government don't give any money to non-town councils for placemaking. It's unacceptable. If you're going to have major developments in a community, the Vales should be engaged with at least the community or the council on placemaking. So these developments don't have bad effects on those communities. I hope, as we move forward on this draft report, that would be included.
Sorry, we're on item 8 about tackling poverty in third sector
Oh,
working.
sorry. Right, yes. Yeah, sorry, Chair. I've had some youth annoyance tonight, and I had to run out the meeting, and I've come back in on the wrong part. So,
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
I do apologise, Chair.
All right.
I shall repeat that later.
Okay. Does anyone have a comment that they would like to make? I mean, I have made the point that I think it's important that community councils and town councils are aware of what the Vale is doing, because in the cost of living crisis, it's very important that the council at the next tier up is doing what it can in order to alleviate poverty and so forth, and how it's bringing in third sector working to do that. I don't know if either if Helen would like to come back on any of the points that have been raised.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think it was just to highlight that we're aware from both the original reports and the work that we've now undertaken in those conversations with the third sector and town and community councils, that there are some really good examples of where there's strong relationships. And so there's some examples of where there are things that we could look to improve things, and also those different opportunities that are there in terms of, as you say, meeting the needs of our communities and seeing how we can sort of in the very difficult times start to do things differently. So I think we've kind of welcomed that work that Compass have undertaken on our behalf, and we feel that within the new corporate plan we're starting to pick up those issues already, and as you can see from the report, we've taken on board the different recommendations and we're now working through those. So it has been a useful opportunity to share the findings today and listen to the comments from members of this committee in terms of some of their experiences, and we can take that back to colleagues as well. And we'd again welcome this as part of the feedback on the consultation on the draft corporate plan as well, which Thomas will pick up in the next item. And again, the emphasis in the work there around placemaking as well as part of that. So thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to make a comment, please? If not, can I recommend that we commend the report because it's important, and I like to think that people would be taking it back to their town and community councils as an example of what the Vale is doing to tackle the cost of living crisis for our constituents. I'd like to recommend that, please.
And I would like to second that, Chair.
Right. Thank you very much. Are we all happy about that? No dissension. Right. I beg your pardon. Okay, so let's move on to item 9 then, please. The draft Vale of Glamorgan Council corporate plan. Who is going to lead on this, please? Oh, it's Tom again. Hello, Tom.
Helen and I are doing a little bit of back and forth this evening, Chair. Thank you very much for taking this. And this builds on the item that Helen has just presented to your committee members. We've got a short slide deck just to walk you through that I think colleagues are going to put up as if by magic it appears. So this item is on the Council's draft corporate plan for 25 to 30. Really grateful for the opportunity to present it to your committee this evening. Your committee is the first committee of all the Council's committees who will be seeing this now as part of the consultation process that, as Helen said, will start from Monday following Cabinet's endorsement of the draft earlier on this afternoon. On the next slide, it just sets out to you the context of the corporate plan. It needs to do a lot of different things, but really importantly, it sets out the future direction for the organisation and the community of the Vale of Glamorgan over the next 5 years. It talks about how we deliver our duties under the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act. It presents 5 new draft wellbeing objectives that I'll run through briefly in a moment. It shows how the council is listening and responding to the findings of the Let's Talk resident survey that members will be aware that over 4,000 residents shared their views as part of, as well as a myriad of other consultation exercises. This is a really important piece of work for us as an organisation because it provides the framework for how we go about planning and delivering the change that we need to over the period. And it also then sets out what residents and partners can expect to see from the council. The draft plan sets out some of the key challenges that the Vale and Wales and the UK are facing and highlights how some of those things are really cross-cutting in the actions that we'll take in order to try and manage and mitigate them. Helen referred to the statement that's included in the plan about working together with other types of organisations, and I'll run through that in a moment, as well as setting out all of the actions that the council will be taking, working in partnership to help tackle poverty. And this is the major plank of the organisation's strategic planning, and it's how we are audited, scrutinised and judged against the commitments that we set out in the plan itself. The next slide just gives you a brief overview of how the plan itself is structured. There's a foreword by the leader and the chief executive of the council. It talks about the communities within the Vale in terms of the achievements from the last corporate plan, the financial context that the council is working in, and importantly, some facts and figures about the organisation and about the communities within the Vale. It then sets out the plan for the future, bringing together that response to Let's Talk, those key challenges around inequality, poverty, climate and nature emergencies, and talks about how the organisation is changing how we work, picking up on Councillor Haynes's example around placemaking, but also about the transformation programme, engagement and working in partnership. Then presents the statement around working with others, before then setting out the 5 wellbeing objectives. And the plan is structured around those objectives, showing the 50 actions that over the 5-year period we would look to achieve. And this corporate plan is different from previous iterations where we set out outcomes that we hope those ambitions will achieve. And those outcomes are set at a community or population level. So they're not things that the council in isolation will be able to deliver, but they're the outcomes that we think we need to achieve collectively. Then sets out the actions around tackling poverty, and then, as you'd expect, how the corporate plan will be monitored and evaluated throughout the course of its lifespan. The next slide gives you a summary of the wellbeing objectives that are being proposed within the new draft corporate plan. And these objectives are constructed around people and also around place, because the council is proposing that it's those 2 aspects of our work that together create those strong communities with a bright future, which is the council's vision. The first couple of objectives, looking at creating great places to live, work and visit, and respecting and celebrating the environment, obviously focus on the place aspect of our work. So they will be reflecting things like the placemaking work, planning considerations, the regeneration activity that's in place across the county, as well as aspects of tourism, housing, heritage, culture and business. And then also around climate change, the ambitions around net zero, the nature emergency, active travel, which your committee has considered earlier this evening, waste, flooding, food and pollution. The next 2 of the objectives are based around people. So the first is around giving everyone a good start in life. And this focuses on future and younger generations, so looking at aspects of our work in terms of tackling child poverty, the importance of our work in schools, sports and play, wellbeing and family support. So very much focusing in on the younger generation within our communities. And then the 4th of the objectives is around supporting and protecting those who need us. And this is showing again a shift of the council's activity to those people who have vulnerabilities, for example, in terms of supporting people to live independently at home, our work around safeguarding, looking after those children who require care, as well as homelessness, adult care and social housing. And this picks up on some of the work that Helen was talking about in the previous item around tackling and preventing poverty. And then finally, the fifth of the objectives is being the best council that we can be. This is a more internal objective, and this is looking at how we're structured in terms of our workforce, ensuring the actions that we take ensure financial sustainability, the work that we do with the council's assets, our digital commitments, as well as how we buy and how we go about working in terms of ensuring equality, access to services, our commitments around Welsh language, etc. And throughout all of those 5 objectives, there are commitments around tackling poverty and tackling inequalities within the Vale as well. The next slide just summarises that relationship statement or our commitment to those working with us that Helen was introducing in the last item. What we've sought to do here is reflect on the feedback from the Compass work and the work that Audit Wales have undertaken, as well as the feedback from a range of different stakeholders, including town and community councils. And what we're seeking to set out here is a very simple and clear set of principles that organisations such as town and community councils can expect from us when working with us. So we're making commitments to be open and transparent, giving organisations the chance to be involved in decisions and making sure that voices are heard. And part of the reason for bringing the consultation this evening to you, Chair and members, is to do that, to make sure that you have sufficient time and different ways to share your feedback on different council plans, for us to be clear in our explanation of what is and isn't possible and to provide reasons why, that we'd be providing clear and simple information about grants and opportunities with fair expectations and timeliness, that we'd seek to work with various organisations to solve problems and find opportunities together, so a far more involving and engaging way, to listen to different ideas of ways to get in touch and to support communities in managing local services, and then finally to respect our diverse communities, aiming for fairness and celebrate Welsh culture. So that's starting to respond to some of the feedback that we've had and has been echoed by members of your committee this evening, Chair. The next slide just draws out some example actions. I mentioned that there are 50 in total in the plan across those 5 wellbeing objectives, and we just wanted to highlight to the kind of actions that are within that 5-year strategy. So, for example, supporting a change in how people travel by increasing opportunities for active travel, promoting the need for quality and timely local public transport services is particularly relevant to your debate earlier on this evening. Applying the principles of placemaking across all our activities as an organisation to ensure there's a strong emphasis on local need and the voice of the community. As Councillor Haynes was just talking about, we are prioritising initially the activity of placemaking within the towns in the Vale of Glamorgan, but that reach will expand in time and provide more meaningful opportunities to engage and consult to enable residents to shape decisions and how the council works. Another example of responding to that Let's Talk About Life in the Vale survey. So within the papers that you've got this evening, members, you'll be able to see the full 50 actions, and we'll very much welcome feedback from town and community councils, as well as a range of other stakeholders, and importantly the public, as we now enter that 8-week period of consultation. The next slide just gives you an overview of the process by which the plan will now go through in being finalised. So, as I mentioned, Cabinet considered and endorsed the draft plan this afternoon as the basis for that 8-week consultation, which will start formally from the 14th of October, and it will run until the 8th of December. Within December and January, we'll be revising the plan, considering the consultation exercise and the responses that we've had. And we'll be taking a revised draft of the corporate plan back to the Corporate Performance and Resources Scrutiny committee for their consideration in mid-February. That will allow Cabinet to consider a revision of the plan alongside a full appendix of consultation outcomes ahead of full council considering this plan on the 3rd of March, which will enable us to start delivery from the 1st of April. And just finally, in terms of the next slide, I wanted to give you some details of the wide-ranging consultation exercise that is going to be run over that 8-week period. We've provided the draft of the plan to our key partners and to all elected members. There is going to be an online survey that will be running on the council's website starting from Monday of next week. There are hard copies being made available in the council's libraries and across other venues in the Vale of Glamorgan as well. We've arranged 4 face-to-face public drop-in sessions where we'll be on hand to discuss and hear the feedback directly from members of the public across the Vale of Glamorgan during that period. We've also got a few dedicated sessions, one for our stakeholders where we're inviting town and community councils as well as other partners to come and discuss the plan with us. And then 2 focused sessions, one with the third sector and stakeholders on that relationship statement that I spoke about, and then secondly, a focus session with partners and stakeholders on the activities that are set out in the plan to tackle poverty. We'll be looking to make sure that we hear voices of young people via the youth service and of older people through the 50 Plus forum. We're going to be attending the annual general meeting of that forum in the coming weeks. I mentioned that your committee are seeing the report this evening as part of a consultation with all council committees. So you'll see this evening and then all scrutiny committees. We'll be taking the plan to the Council's Equality Consultative Forum as well as the Engagement Champions Network. And there are a range of different staff engagement events being planned, including question and answer session with myself and also then discussion with the council's employee networks as well. So a really wide-ranging consultation. We're very much welcoming and hoping that we hear lots of different views. The plan has been shaped by over 8,000 voices so far, and we're keen to hear as many more as we can. So that's a really brief overview of the council's corporate plan. And hopefully that's been useful. As ever, I'm happy to take any questions.
Right, thank you very much for that. That was very thorough and, you know, to be applauded that we are, you know, the council is seeking to engage with as many people as possible. We can't know what we're doing wrong until we go out and ask people, and we'd be nice to find out what we're doing right when we go out and ask people. Okay, let me start with Councillor Haynes and then Councillor Cave, please.
Thank you, Chair. And first off, again, I'd like to apologise for getting confused. Having to deal with issues and talk to the police while in a meeting hasn't been ideal. So moving on, thank you for addressing some of the issues, Tom, that I raised in the previous item incorrectly. I'd just like to stress about the placemaking that engaging later with the placemaking doesn't help. You need to engage if there's a major development before the developers have come up with a plan. So the planners know what the community expects from these developments. I take you to St Athan and I'm willing to walk around St Athan with anyone from the Vale and show the series of estates that have been built which don't create any social cohesion. And again, I say St Athan Community Council has been reaching out to the Vale, as I have, to address this single issue, that we need to come up with a plan for the development that's about to start on Churchfield soon, and all the other developments associated with the RLDP. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cave.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report, Tom. I'm a little bit concerned again that this is a very long report, and it's obviously a very important document. You know, it's a 5-year strategy that's being brought here, and there's lots and lots of words about good intentions. and not least one of the intentions which you note in one of your slides, and that is to make more opportunities for meaningful engagement and consultation. And I actually wonder how meaningful is the consultation on this document tonight with the town and community councillors that are here, that takes place at 8:45 at night. I think it's very late for town and community councils who are, as I said before, are mostly volunteers, to look at this very large document and really take you seriously when you say you want meaningful engagement. Because face-to-face engagement is what the town and community councils really want. They don't want to turn up to 4 of your engagements that are face-to-face. What I'm assuming they would like is for you to come along to each of the town and community councils individually and discuss the plan with them. Because if you were to do that, you would have some understanding of actually what the individual town and community councils are facing. I think to pull everybody together on one engagement event or 4 events, it is really not showing that you really want meaningful engagement. If you want meaningful engagement, every town and community council meet every month. You could go along to those meetings and actually probably have members of the public come along that have interest in this 5-year strategy of the councils and actually have some meaningful engagement. You say you've had over 80,000 voices. I don't know what you mean by voices. Are they little threads of something that somebody's put on your Let's Talk consultation? If you want meaningful engagement, then talk to us in a meaningful way, because 80,000 voices means absolutely nothing to me at all.
Sorry, Councillor Burnett.
Thank you, Chair. I was absolutely delighted to take this report to Cabinet today. In fact, it's been a very long day. I think it started at about 8 o'clock this morning, so forgive me if I stumble over some of the words. But the reason that we wanted to bring this here is exactly what Tom was talking about, in terms, if you look at section 4 and resetting the whole relationship with our communities. There's been an awful lot of stuff over recent years where, we haven't actually communicated very well the pressures that have been on the council, the financial challenges we face, and why we haven't been able to do some of those things. Okay, it's been hidden within budget reports somewhere that, X amount was being lost off this budget and Y amount was being lost off another one. But I think the implications of what that means, when you think that half of our budget is actually passported straight into schools, it's delegated for the schools to manage their own budgets, and that has implications. So we have to look at that, and what we are talking about here is what our basic and guiding principles will be over the next 5 years. And so if we want to look at what the shape of the council will be, how it will feel, what it will deliver, how it works with its communities, this report is what will guide it. Once we agree this corporate plan, that corporate plan then distills into annual delivery plans. From that comes the service plans. It's from that the budget then gets allocated against the various services. So this is a hugely important plan, and so we thought it important to bring it here. As I said, on section
I'm sorry, Councillor Burnett, we've lost you off screen. Would you be able to come off screen and back on, please? I'm sorry, Councillor Burnett, we're still not seeing you at the moment. Are you able to leave the meeting and rejoin, please? And closing the browser window. Sorry, Councillor Burnett, we're still not able to see or hear you at the moment. Could you leave the meeting, please, and close the browser window and rejoin through your invitation link?
Okay, shall we move on to somebody else and wait to see if Councillor Burnett can get back in again, please?
Yes, I've just had a message to say that it's Councillor Burnett's returned now. Thank you.
I am back in. Yes, so I was just saying about section 4. I mean, it's something that we actually do with our staff, is to talk about what you can expect from the council if you work for us. And I think that what we need to set out is what you can expect if you work with us as a community council. I think I'm going to have to take my background off. Maybe that's causing the problem, as long as you don't look at the state of my office. So I think there is a conversation to be had in this conversation in the consultation, in terms of, you know, if we can have the guiding principles of what you can expect from us. I think we need to also have that conversation about how we actually work together. And so what that means for community councils, town and community councils as well. This has been brought here today not for a definitive response. This has been brought here today right at the start of the consultation, so that that conversation can happen right the way through until December. That there are community scrutiny meetings that you can attend or you can watch. There are drop-in sessions, there are online sessions, etc. The only other thing that I would add to that, I really do hope that there is an in-depth conversation, and I and the Cabinet will be hoping to be at all, if not most, of those drop-in sessions. But what I would say for community councils, and just adding in, might be worth having a look at, is actually a while back, what was the Creative Rural Communities team, now Creative Communities, developed a community mapping toolkit. I understand it's still available online, but I can get the link for you. And that actually takes you through the basic principles of place planning. If on the website, St Athan was actually one of the first communities to be supported to undergo that, and as a result, there were actually developments within St Athan for it, and they are still online, the case studies from that. So the team would be very, very pleased to help anybody to access that support. But I really do hope that as many people as possible participate in the consultation, so the outcome can be as strong and robust as it possibly can. Thank you all for participating in this tonight.
Thank you. Councillor Perry. You're on mute.
That's better, sorry. Just so you can say that a member of a community council has actually spoken on this, I will say some things. This is a document that lays down the future direction. I read the 5 objectives and I'm clueless as to the direction of the Vale of Glamorgan Council. It's all meaningless. You can't understand what you mean. You can't understand where the council's going from the objectives. There's absolutely no direction in those 5 statements. You know, who decides what a great place to live is? Yeah, this is what's going out to consultation, and we're all going to be completely confused. Respecting the environment. Surely we should now be reducing our negative impact on the environment. So that should be the objective, not just respecting it, because what does that exactly mean? supporting and protecting those who need us, as if we wouldn't do that if we didn't have that in the plan, surely? Or are we just trying to squeeze our way out of our responsibilities to those with additional needs to most of us? Being the best council it can be, well, the it can be is another get out clause, isn't it? Where's the direction in that, whether it's internal, as someone suggested, or not? It's going nowhere. It's not giving us any direction. There's no mention of localism. An objective could be reshaping in there as to how you're going to reshape and delegate more responsibility to the community councils. Why is it not an objective to promote the shared economy, to reduce our use of materials and maximise utilisation of products? Because the Vale Council could do that quite easily, but we don't. We just carry on 1990 style business as usual. What about an objective for knocking down the barriers that are facing people with disabilities and children? Yeah, I've got people in my community still struggle to access places without the need of cars, or even with cars, they still struggle to get there. 5.6 says a full equality impact assessment is under development. We had a planning committee. I got told there was a robust equality impact assessment done. Yeah, carry on. I asked questions afterwards. It's been lost. It doesn't exist. There is none. So that's a bit more skepticism. It's when I sort of read my notes, I made lots of notes. It was just a lot of words that were meaningless. You could have had a 3-paragraph document that would said more than that 40-odd page document. Sorry. They say the plan highlights the importance of involving residents and working in partnership, embedding the principles of placemaking and the opportunities that will be explored through the reshaping programme. And all you're going to get back is scepticism. Yeah, because we don't believe you. We don't believe the Vale Glamorgan Council when you say this. And the feedback is all there over Facebook and Twitter. Yeah, you got to change first, and don't just put it in a document that the future's going to be rosy. The old objectives to work with our communities, well, it's not happened so far. To support learning, employment and sustainable economic growth. Well, of course you support learning through schools. So we're not going to be closing school downs. To respect, enhance and enjoy our environment. Well, yes, naturally we should be doing that. And to support people at home and in their community. Well, we should be doing that. We don't need to plan. That's just what we do as a council. It's the bare raw facts. It's
can I step in here and say that you haven't actually said anything positive about it, and I'm looking forward to your detailed response from your community.
I spent 2 hours reading it, and I struggle to find anything positive about it. And you haven't got a single member of the community council speaking about it. So perhaps
I'm a member of the town council, so I can speak about it. You're not the only person here that comes from a non-Vale council. Okay, so
I'm here.
They're offering us the opportunity, all our community councils and town councils, to make comments on this and to encourage people to make individual responses. I look forward to seeing very detailed responses from several members of your community, obviously, who will be, pushed to do this because of your enthusiasm for the criticism and evaluation of it.
Well, that's part of the problem. My criticism is, who's going to respond to this when they don't really understand the direction? It's all about the direction. If you don't give a direction you think you want to go in, how are the residents going to do better because there's no direction to start off with?
I think most residents are quite capable of reading this and looking at it themselves. They don't necessarily need us to interpret it, and they can come back to offices.
It's a good 2-hour read.
And this is about the future of the Vale, isn't it?
If you really want people to engage, you give them a very boring document that's going to take them 2 hours.
People who are interested and committed will want to do that. And in fact, there is an executive summary at the front that could be made available to almost anyone or any town and community council that people can look at and then decide whether they want to delve further into it. Right. Does anybody else have a comment that they would like to make, please? Does anyone else have a comment that they would like to make, please, before I bring back Tom to see if he's got anything else he'd like to say before we finish? Councillor Summers.
Could I ask Tom if he would could just confirm that this will be formally sent out to each of the councils, and what sort of timescale he's expecting the community councils, and what sort of timescale he's expecting for that.
By all means, Tom.
Thank you, Councillor Summers. Yeah, certainly we'll be sending the draft plan, if indeed it hasn't actually already been sent out to all town and community councils, alongside a range of other stakeholders. The consultation starts formally on Monday, the 14th of October. It runs for 8 weeks. So town and community councils, along with all others, have got that period in which to consider the draft corporate plan and to provide feedback on it. So, and you can do that either by writing back directly to us, or also through providing your feedback via the survey. To take a couple of I know Councillor Perry made a series of comments, but the one sort of question towards the end in terms of engagement with the corporate plan, I'm aware that it's a 40-page strategy. It needs to do lots of different things for the organisation. It also needs to set out the direction of a whole organisation for 5 years. So by that very nature, it's going to be a detailed document. But we are conscious of the fact that we want to make the consultation engaging and accessible. So alongside the executive summary, Chair, that you made reference to, there will be a public summary published as part of the consultation, but also the consultation exercise itself online enables people to contribute their views on one or more of the objectives. So you don't need to go through a whole survey on all of the plan if there are particular aspects of it that people would like to share their views on. And the purpose of having those drop-in sessions is to enable people to have a less formal opportunity to be able to discuss aspects of the plan, either in its totality or on those specific aspects around tackling poverty and working in partnership that I mentioned in the presentation. And one of the things that we have introduced as part of this draft corporate plan is a set of outcomes that we want to see by 2030. And in response to Councillor Perry's sort of general comments around the strategic direction of the organisation, it would be really useful to have his and others' views in terms of those outcomes that we want to see, because they are the things that those actions seek to deliver. And I think commitments around a reduction in child poverty, improved health and well-being, reduced levels of social isolation, parents and carers having access to support that they need, feel to me as if they are very real ambitions and outcomes. But if they aren't being worded in a way that is accessible, as Councillor Perry has suggested, I very much welcome the feedback from anybody that can share those. And we do want this to be a meaningful engagement and consultation process. So very much welcome the views. And then Councillor Haynes raised the point in terms of timing of engagement around development and placemaking. I've made a note of that, and I'll make sure that that's fed into the consultation. So thank you to Councillor Haynes for raising that point as well.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I would like to make the point that everybody at this meeting has access to this document, because it will have been emailed to you. So there is, you can send it to your council clerks and ask them to distribute it as widely as possible, certainly to all members of town and community councils, who can then use it to reach out to the groups that they have contact with, reach out to their residents, to their constituents, and ask them to offer responses. I mean, obviously some of it is going to be negative, but we hope that some of it is going to be positive as well. And as we've said before of these consultations, we cannot know what we're doing right or we're doing wrong unless we go out and ask people, even if that news is unwelcome to us. So there have been drop-in sessions offered, and I have made the point that this document can be circulated far more widely than just to the people at this meeting. And I would make the point again that there is an executive summary at the front that people can look at and engage with that, even if they don't wish to spend the 2 hours that apparently Councillor Perry spent reading it. Okay, so I'd like to... I don't know if there are any recommendations attached to this. Are there, Amy? I think it's just accepting the report, isn't it?
Oh, yes, Chair. It was just noting the verbal reference and appended Cabinet report.
Right, so I'd like us to do that. We're going to note that, and I'd like to have a seconder for that noting, please.
And I'm happy to second that.
Thank you. And Councillor Hanks, I hope that was for a seconding, wasn't it? Yep. No, did you want to come in? No. Okay, thank you very much. All right, with that, with my recommendations ringing in your ears, I'd like to say thank you very much for everybody's time, and there is nothing else on the agenda, so the next meeting will be in January, I believe. Is that correct, Amy, please? Amy?
Yes, Chair, that's correct. The next meeting is on the Thursday, the 30th of January.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much for your time again. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Chair.